Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Yeah, baby! Oh my God, Dan Aguirre, are you going to apply to be the next head coach of the Chicago Bears?
No, I am not capable of doing that, but I don't think Matt Nagy is either. And it seems that the whole world, if you believe these reports, is suddenly of the same mindset of us.
That's right.
I just don't know. I don't know. Do you mind jumping in on that right now? What is your opinion? Do you believe? I want to say one thing before I hear your opinion. This news report that had a little bit of credibility because it came with NBC Sports, it had this gigantic error in the article, though, which makes it ruins the credibility for me. It said that Matt Nagy won the division title in 2018. The first time the Bears had done that since 2008. First off, they didn't win the division title in 08. They didn't make the playoffs in 08. That's the reason they traded for Cutler going into 09. The last time we won the division before Nagy in 18 was 10 with Cutler when we went to the NFC Championship game. How does NBC Sports Chicago or whomever the fuck not know that?
Right.
But anyway, the article seems to intimate that Matt Nagy is going to be fired after tomorrow's or Thursday's game. I mean, could that be true? It just seems like that's got to be bullshit.
Well,
right?
And here's the thing, and we'll hear about this in our media smash up that I've been working on for the last 3-4 hours, only because all this late breaking news. I go, oh shit, I gotta see if the radio guys in town talked about this. So I included some of that sound, and so what we will learn during that sound is the guy that wrote this article, and I didn't write his name in front of me, but he is a Pulitzer Prize winner. And as one of the ESPN guys says, well, that doesn't mean anything. But he's a former Pulitzer Prize winner, worked for years in Chicago at the Chicago Sun-Times, and now he's been working at a website called patch.com. So the guy comes with a lot of credibility, but boy, oh boy, does this smell fictitious to me. But
Yeah.
either way, Matt Nagy is not long for the job. And so if you are in the realty business, I would be calling the Nagy family as quickly as possible, because you could possibly sell a home. Do you, before we get into the present day news, I want to get your reaction to the Bears' loss against the Ravens, because we didn't get a chance to talk much and exchange texts and so forth. And then when we texted each other yesterday, you were like really down in the dumps. Tell us about that.
God, I was, man. Thankfully, some pussy brought me out of the woodwork. Well, I'll tell you about that at the end of the show. But yeah, so I watched the game on Sunday, and I made the comment. I stole this line from Pulp Fiction like 30 years ago now. It's like when you remember when Jimmy is at the garage, they call in the wolf and they're cleaning up the car.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of Pulp Fiction, when Travolta shoots Marvin in the back, in the face.
That's awesome stuff. Yes.
Yeah. So Harvey Keitel says, "Okay, gentlemen, we can't start sucking each other's dicks just yet. We're not out of this yet."
Exactly.
So I've been saying that since 1994 or whatever.
That's a great line.
So when Goodwin scored, everyone was boisterous and celebrating. And again, I was just talking to Holly, whom I was watching the game with. I said, we can't start sucking each other's dicks just yet. But for some reason, the one thing that I did feel at that moment is we're going to win this game. I felt like as much as I rag on the defense, they had like 5-6 sacks. I was like, thank God they don't have to, kick a field goal here. They have to score a touchdown. I was like, we're going to win this. But just the craziness of Matt Nagy, if there's one sequence that embodies like all of his ineptitude as a head coach. So they go to kick the extra point and then waste a timeout and then suddenly line up to go for 2 instead, when they could have kicked it off and basically had a touchback.
Yes.
So they go for 2 from the 1 yard line. And once again, they don't fucking run it. You have 1 yard to go and they try some stupid pass. But even if they got it, they're still only up 6. What difference does it make if you're up 5 or 6? A touchdown still beats you. What's the point? Just kick it and not waste your time out there. But to answer your question, when they lost, I was just in the fucking dumps, man. Like I was just like, I could believe it, but I didn't want to believe it. I sat in my living room in the dark with no dialogue, no lights, nothing for like 4 hours after the game.
Wow. Were you turning on and off the light like those psychos do?
No, I just sat there. I was like, and then I thought I was going to go see a movie, and I'm about to go to the movie because I'm like, I just got to get out of the house. And the fucking theater had a COVID outbreak that night, and they had to close it down and said that they're going to be closed for 2 or 3 days for cleaning because one of their employees tested positive. So I'm like, well, fuck. I'll go exercise. And then it starts raining like a monsoon. So well, I don't want to do that. So I ended up just working out inside my house. But needless to say, Sunday I was really down, and even into Monday.
Until
things improved late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. We'll talk about that later.
I cannot wait to hear Dan's latest sex story because it's fresh. I mean, you can smell.
It's fresh. I had some just a few hours ago too. So
this is
what the Rock is cooking.
This is an adult Chicago Bears sex, food, movie,
we're like Howard
TV.
Stern, man. Come on.
Yes, I just want to warn people because I accidentally in the beginning we've got this video rolling and then I put this kind of parental discretion thing on, but I put a comment, somebody's comment from the chat room over the parental discretion. So there could be kids listening right now and they're saying, "Mommy, why is he talking about sex? What is that?" But so put those kids to bed.
Do you remember our very first episode? I don't remember what we talked about. The very first Bear Our Souls, and this guy on YouTube just was like killing us for being filthy.
Yeah.
Comments. You remember that?
Yes.
It was almost funny. It was almost worth it. Now, you don't want to offend anybody, but this dude was so appalled that it was actually funny. But
yes,
anyway.
I've over the years doing a bunch of shows here at the Barroom Network, previously Bears Barroom. I've looked at comments from some of our shows, and some people just, I can't believe the language. I can't believe some of the things that I heard. I will never come back and listen to this stuff. And hey, we were trying to tell you that this can get. Sometimes I hate to call it an adult because we're acting like juveniles, but it is what it is.
That's the best thing about it, though. Like, if you don't want to have off the cuff language, you can listen to the score. I don't want to sound like Joe Biden during the fucking primaries, and he's like, if you don't like me, just vote for somebody else.
Right.
But it's kind of that way. You can listen to the score. You can listen to WGN. You can listen to ESPN. If you don't want to, if you want the FCC regulating the show, you have alternatives.
Right. There's a lot of fantastic stuff available that is straight journalistic style stuff and going all the way to the other end of the spectrum. There are shows like ours where we tell fart jokes. And listen, on the way, just before the start of the show, I went upstairs to get something. And my wife, man, when she focuses on a TV show, she is focused. So I say to her, good night, sweetheart. I'll see you tomorrow, because by the time we're halfway through the show, she's already in bed sleeping, and she's just looking at the TV like a Dateline episode or something. I don't know what the hell she was watching. And so, good night, honey. Good night. And then she doesn't respond. I say, okay, I'll come on your face later tonight. She didn't respond. I go, okay, I got away with that one. Although she's probably not pleased that I mentioned that on the air.
You have a very nice wife.
She lets me get away with
it. To you, but at least to our faces, I think she would smile. But who knows?
I hope so. All right, so here's what I did with the media smash up. I started with comments from the local radio media about the game. The stuff from Ed O'Bradovich is absolute fucking gold. It is gold. Then I worked my way to some of the stuff that the radio stations in town covered on Monday, the after effects. And then we catch up with all the latest news that Matt Nagy may be fired. And after we play that, then we'll get some sound bites how Nagy handled the issue, because the news was leaked before his press conference, which stuff like that never usually works, but it did for us. And we'll listen to Nagy talk about it. We'll listen to Chris Tabor talk about it, and one of the players will also comment on it. And then we're going to go back in history, because I asked Dan to come up with some of the worst teams in Chicago Bears history that he recalls and so forth. So I want to hear what he's got. And I also want to go back to the fiasco that was the Dave McGinnis so-called hiring. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And I've got some video to accompany that. So Dan, if you don't have anything, I'll go ahead and start right away with the media smash up.
I'm here, man. Like I told you, I was so crestfallen after the Bears loss on Sunday that I literally didn't listen to anything.
Awesome.
That's why I asked you. I was like, man, if you're okay with doing the media, I don't even want to hear anything. Like I was that down. I haven't heard anything. So anything you play, Jesus God, I've knocked some shit down here. Anything you're going to play is going to be fresh to me, because I've followed nothing since the game.
And Dan, I know exactly how you feel. There are many times when the Bears lose, I just stay away from the media, man. I stay away. And now with fucking social media and stuff, it's made it even worse, because you'll run into a tweet and then you want to get into a fight with the guy. I can't believe you said that, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you did the right thing. And the fact that you got laid the day later, that I'm really proud of you, brother.
I'm more proud of her. But
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here is this week's edition of the Media Mashup.
This is the Matt Nagy idiocy of this era, flying at half staff in the breeze, twisting and turning. This kid, Tyler Huntley, goes 26 of 36, 219 yards, one interception, but he masterminds a 10-point fourth quarter after the first three quarters were so full of ineptitude that nobody could get out of their own way. But when it mattered, guess what? We made mistake after mistake and served this thing up.
Our backs are up against the wall. We knew what we had to do, and you find out just before the game that Lamar Jackson is not playing. Okay? This should not have been a contest today, especially with our defense. But if you want to go from quarter to quarter to quarter, what have I been telling you people with this Nagy offense year after year after year? What we wind up on third down conversion? 1 of 9, 1 of 12, what was it?
It wasn't good.
It wasn't good. And so you got to convert. Why do you convert? You eat up the clock. And the most important thing, you put points on the board. What a game for us to lose, and the way we lost it. It's just a damn shame.
2 for 11 is the answer.
2 for 11. Okay, you're going to lose a football game, okay?
There's a ton of horrible losses in Nagy's life, but this one has to be at the top.
Does this remind you of Trestman up in Green Bay?
Oh, my God.
After giving up 50 here to New England, he goes up there and they give up. I mean, doesn't it have the same smell, the same feel?
Won that game, I think we would still be saying the same thing about what we learned about this coaching staff yesterday.
But at least the loss is not just significant because it confirms everything we saw, but to ownership, to everybody else, that is the record. The record is indicative of this team and what we're seeing. But when you tweeted yesterday, the sequence that I think is just the Bears under Matt Nagy in a nutshell. Punt team comes on. Nagy calls timeout. Panic on the sideline regarding his headset. Offense hurries back on the field. 4th and 1 wildcat play goes for no gain, plus a holding penalty. Ravens start in Bears territory. Scene.
That's your play, right? That's your moment. I just, these coaches are almost to a fault too detail oriented, right? Like I don't know if there's a profession that like over prepares and overworks themselves like football coaches do. So to me, to be in that situation and not know automatically that what you're going to do after that 3rd and 1 play. Like, why does it matter if the headset went out? Who cares? Like, you should know right then and there what you're doing. And same thing on the going for 2. Once you get the ball in that situation and you're driving, you know if you're going to go for 2, right? How many times have you watched a game where a team scores a touchdown, the camera goes right to the head coach and immediately shows 1 or 2 fingers in the air? Like that's how good coaches understand that. Like you shouldn't be well, there was a penalty and there was celebrating and we were just trying to get everything sorted out. No, like you should know right then and there as the drive started what you're going to do. And it reeks of a lack of preparation for people who, pride themselves on over preparing for these things.
You know what it was to me, Kevin? It was the latest explosion of the myth of collaboration. Or if you want to read it differently, the frightening truth of collaboration. Because that's the word that they've used to diffuse all responsibility, to cravenly hang on to their jobs last time around. It's everybody's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's all the scouts. It's all everything. And in that moment, when all you need is a coach, all you need is someone in charge of an NFL team, the most rigid militaristic simulacrum that we still have of that kind of structure outside of the actual military. All you need is a coach. And when his magic headset turned off, there went the everybody. There went all the collaboration. There went all the voices. And all you should be able to do, it's like at the end of Star Wars. Luke, turn off your targeting computer. Turn off your targeting computer. Take it off and put those things right in the exhaust port. They can't do it. They can't. They couldn't do it.
I was selling people a bill of goods off the second half of the Pittsburgh game and Baltimore's pass defense and their injuries on defense and the Bears being at home, coming off of a bye. I got to be honest with you. I did not see that offensive stinker coming. Why do you think they were so terrible yesterday offensively?
Oh, I just think a young kid trying to handle a blitz from the Baltimore Ravens is like impossible. I mean, the Jets faced the Miami Dolphins. They kind of do the same thing yesterday. And they didn't want to put Mike White or Zach Wilson out there, so they put Joe Flacco out there. And much like Joe Flacco yesterday, Andy Dalton, when he finally got in the game yesterday, actually did well and moved the ball well and was able to navigate the blitz, especially on 4th and 12. I don't know what the hell Wink Martindale was thinking about on 4th and 12, just letting Andy Dalton float one out there for an easy touchdown pass. But, I mean, that's part of the learning process of a young player. Yesterday before the game, when we found out Lamar Jackson was not playing, I picked the Bears. I figured, okay, the Bears got Justin Fields. They got a little mojo. They're playing against one of the worst pass defenses in football. One of the reasons they're one of the worst pass defenses in football is because I think that Wink Martindale, though their defensive coordinator, tends to be a little bit reckless at times. And I know it's all about the blitz, and that's how Rex Ryan used to, coach down there, and that's kind of the history and the fabric and the foundation of that team. But my God, you make so many boneheaded mistakes that you allow other teams to have 20 or more yards passing more than any other team in the league in terms of plays like that. So that's why I picked the Bears to win yesterday. And then when Justin went out, I thought even more so that they would win, because I figured Andy would be able to handle some of the blitzes because he's seen them when he was in Cincinnati. And I thought he did okay. He played fine. But, to allow Tyler Huntley to take the ball down the field at the end of the game, in a game in which you basically shut him down for the most part, except for some of the broken plays, that's inexcusable. And this is a team that, is coming off of a bye. They should have been better, prepared. They should have been ready to play. And I know Roquan Smith and Quinn were ready to go. They played their asses off. And for the most part, the defense played great. But, man, that's a game you got to win. It's inexcusable. And I hate to say it, but, it is on the coaching staff, especially, when you're playing against a kid that's never played in a league before, has never really played in a game. And, he's struggling out there, and you allow him to beat you the way that they did. That's what makes this one so tough this fall.
What happened to our quarterback? He had to leave because of ribs. How many times did we have called quarterback runs today? I know of at least 4.
Yeah,
here's 5.
We've got a kid Fields, who we believe, everybody seems to believe, that he's the future of the Bears, okay? With running quarterbacks, bad things usually happen, okay? Well, this kid can pass. I think he's an accurate passer. He's got to learn to put a little arc under the ball a little bit more, but it's all going to come. And not only today, but 2 weeks ago, you know what what Nagy and Lazure are doing? They're designing running plays for who? Our quarterback, Justin Fields, the future of our team. Now, the last time I checked, there's an offensive line, and they're supposed to block and open holes. Then the next thing that I remember, there are people who are on a Bears uniform. They're called halfbacks. They're called running backs that you pay millions of dollars to run the football. And you're going to design running plays for him? It's not bad enough that he gets whacked every other play when he passes. Now you want to put him in a running situation on a design play? You moron!
Nagy, this was like the job of a lifetime, and he came in here with high hopes. They had a great year. I understand what's happened and how it's unfolded, but this isn't Ryan Pace 7 years hiding in an upstairs office and apparently whispering sweet nothings to all of the upper administration. I mean, he's the guy. You want to start chanting things, start looking at roster construction. You got to wonder how you play in the NFL without cornerbacks. And I just think that there are other targets here. This is people going for the easy target, and that's great. And I'm sure he hasn't done enough to keep his job, and that will catch up to him. But good God, it's been 7 years of roster construction, of traded picks, of overselling, oversigning, all sorts of free agents. Look at everything that's going on, and nobody at Hallis Hall is above any kind of criticism. And don't let people throw you a bone and think that if you make one change, you're going to change anything in the actual way this team is run. It disappoints me that there isn't more ambition among the fans.
I think one thing that you have to really keep a close eye on here and consider when you think about them rebooting this program at the end of the season is, depending on what they do with some of these guys that have big contracts and that are a little bit older, by the time the dust settles and before they get to adding players to the roster, that's going to be the real issue here. They're going to be down to maybe 30 or so guys under contract moving ahead to 2022. And that doesn't include the reserve futures guys that are signed at the end of the season. So the cap space that they're going to have, that they're going to be able to create, that's great, but you're going to have a ton of holes to fill on that roster. Some real key spots. And if you talk about going out and buying a number one wide receiver, if you need to address a cornerback position with the starter, if you need offensive line help, that cap space you have is going to be whittled down pretty quickly. And you've got to hit. You've got to hit when you go out into the free agent market. And as we know, I mean, there's a swing and miss ratio with that, just as there is with the NFL draft, where the Bears are going to be short on picks this coming spring. If Justin Fields is a player, they're going to be able to kind of patch this together, and he's going to raise the level of the players around him, and things will get very interesting. But they've got a lot of heavy lifting to do ahead of them, and I don't see this as a quick reboot if they make changes in leadership.
Half of the games they've played since 2019, they have failed to score an offensive touchdown in the first half. Like the ineptitude. Look, you know how I have felt all along about I have always felt that they are more inclined to remain status quo because they like these guys. But as always, as I've always said, like, look, I think if they're a 7-10 team and the young quarterback is playing and progressing, they don't want to make changes because they're uncomfortable. They don't have an appetite for it. Unless things go sideways and it's a disaster. 30% of their games have been pure disasters. Cleveland was a disaster. Tampa Bay was a disaster. And yesterday was a disaster.
Well, at Green Bay. Once you put Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, what do you mean?
That's not a disaster.
Aaron Rodgers on national TV is yelling that he owns you. You have gone 5.
The game wasn't a disaster.
But you've gone 5. Isn't just the disaster of not being competitive with your rival that care about. You're 5-22 against Aaron Rodgers in his career.
Well, they're significantly better than you. I'm talking about on display, watching complete and total. That wasn't complete and total ineptitude compared to Cleveland and Tampa and some of the things yesterday. And we talked on Friday and even Thursday as well. Like, good measuring stick game, and because you want to be, like, set your sights on being something like the Baltimore Ravens. And look what they did yesterday. They lose their quarterback 2 hours before the game starts. We think we have injuries. There's no Khalil Mack. There's no Akeem Hicks. There's no Eddie Jackson. There's no Allen Robinson. They've got as many injuries or more than we do.
Right.
And they found a way. They were more disciplined than us. They found a way, because they're a well-coached team, to get a victory on the road. And it just was, once again, it was on full display. So, look, as I have always maintained my position that I think that they are always inclined to remain status quo, this is over. Like, the disasters are numerous. There hasn't been one disaster. There's been at least 3 disasters. And if you go to Detroit and lose to the Lions on Thursday, that's a 4th disaster. I will be tremendously shocked if change doesn't take place at the end of this year. I don't expect it to happen. Even if they lose to the Lions on Thursday, I don't expect them to make a change. Because I don't. How does Ryan Pace go in there and make that change?
It's BS. Like, we're not going to keep talking. Like, we got to find ways to win. We got to just get it done. I mean, whatever it is. I mean, like I said, whatever it is. But there's nothing to keep coming in here and talking about and having all these rah-rah speeches. Like, we've had 5 weeks of rah-rah speeches. So, I mean, I don't think that talking is anything that we need to be doing.
Dave, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, that was an interesting little sound bite there from Jalen Johnson, but it doesn't really surprise me. You know, we don't know if the rah-rah talks. I mean, is he referring to Matt Nagy? Is he referring to the defensive coordinator? Is he referring to some of his defensive players or offensive players? You know, so we don't know who, but I think at the end of the day, the bottom line is that, you know, right now they got to win a football game, and there's as much frustration on the team about being able to close out a game and win a game as there is with the fans and I'm sure ownership and everybody else. So I was kind of glad to hear that. I mean, I would have been very disappointed if the guy walked up there and said, you know what, we'll bounce back this week. The attitude's good with the players. Everybody is everybody's going to get focused and we're going to go beat Detroit. I mean, how would you feel if he said that? So I liked what he said. It is what it is. I listened to Tom Thayer yesterday and my man Olin Kreutz because I wanted to truly get their spin on it. And Olin and I do some work together, and Tom's as close as anybody. And he's about broken down right now. I mean, I know Tom pretty well, and yeah, I can hear it in his voice and hear his comments. He's just about on his knees, and that's a tough situation. If you get Tom Thayer in that mindset, you're really struggling, and obviously that's where we're at.
All right, so let me give you the background, give the history here. Mark Conkle is a long time, as we say in Chicago, a long-time guy.
Long-time guy.
Mark Conkle has covered politics in this town. He's been a columnist. He's been a reporter. A lot of years with the Chicago Sun-Times. He has won a Pulitzer back in 2011.
Decorated journalist.
He's a journalist, yes. He's a guy that isn't some Twitter guy who is just throwing something out there that
this
you
isn't
would think.
Wet Butt 12.
Well, I mean, but again, Wet Butt in 2021 had good sources, or 2017 when this happened. Who are you to question Wet Butt these days?
It's a good question.
So Mark Conkle is a guy who knows how to work a story that isn't just going to get a phone call and someone whispering in his ear and say, "Hey, Conkle, I hear that Nagy is out." And his report was that the Bears have told Matt Nagy that he's fired, but he's going to coach Thursday because of the short week. And then after Thursday's game, when they've got extra time to regroup before their next game, then they'll officially announce it. But supposedly the story was that they say that the Bears and Nagy's been fired, but will coach, and it won't go public until Friday.
Just because he's a nice guy, right? He's just going to stay in the role, but seems weird. Seems like a weird...
I don't know why you tell the coach that this is the end of the line for him. If you were going to make this... If you had made your decision and you just didn't want to do it as an organization because it's a short week, I don't know why you'd add this into the mix. I don't know why you'd add this distraction now for the team and everything else. You're going to play an absolutely dreadful Lions team that has 2 wins in its last 20 games. And now you're going to, you know this stuff doesn't stay private. You know it's going to leak. I mean, who are you kidding? You tell the coach? You possibly tell the coach that this is his last game? I can't believe that they do something so
stupid. Not only that, Carm, not only that, but you set up a situation when you didn't fire both parties. Okay? You didn't fire both parties. You set up a situation now where the general manager is giving a new head coach a 1-year quarterback that he may or may not want. Same way with Trubisky. When they drafted Trubisky when Fox was here, fired Fox, they brought Matt Nagy in. So one of the first questions is Justin Fields going to be your quarterback when you interview the next head coach, right?
Yeah.
Right? So you've set up the same scenario. History repeats itself with the Chicago Bears. Okay, your general manager did something. He drafted a quarterback. You fired the head coach that was supposed to develop that quarterback. You're going to bring in a new coach that has to take Justin Fields as the quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay, same scenario, right? Same situation.
It is.
History repeating itself. Didn't work the first time. Do you go about the business of making sure that it does work this time? That you hire a coach that you know is a 100% Justin Fields supporter? Does that mean the head coach at Ohio State University becomes
right.
your
the
guy?
only guy? How
do you will be done? January 12th, whenever the championship game is.
Yes, I mean that's a good point, York. Like, isn't that the only guy you can?
You really pigeonholed yourself,
right.
didn't you?
Because the coach is going to say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'm a Justin Fields guy." There's 32 of these jobs.
Yeah.
This is the coach of the charter franchise of the National Football League you're talking about here. This is one of the primo, right? I mean, this is it. Like, what is the coach going to? The coach is going to be like, "Nah, I'll pass." I don't know. I mean, unless you're Josh McDaniels and you know your situation in a lot of ways is golden because of where you are, what you have around you,
right?
Like, how many coaches, I mean, because he walked away from the Indy job, right? Like, how many coaches walk away from NFL jobs? You know, I mean, like, the coach is going to say, "Oh, sure, I love Justin Fields," just like Matt Nagy was like, "Oh, yeah, Mitch Trubisky, of course."
Wow. Was that a lot? Danny,
The
still
thing
with
that
me?
stuck out to me the most
Uh-huh.
was something that I personally wanted to mention, so I would give her credit, and I always fuck up her name. The lady that was in there in the loop on the score.
Layla, yeah, I mess up her name too.
Yeah, well, she mentioned the fact that, you come out on fourth down after you waste a timeout again and run that fucking Wildcat play. And the Wildcat hasn't worked since 2008 when it was suddenly a fad because Miami beat New England with it when they didn't have Tom Brady in 08 when they had Matt Castle. But suddenly, the Bears are getting innovative. They're using the Wildcat from 20 years ago. On fourth down, just give Montgomery the ball. And then that one instance, he, like Romo pointed out, he had the first down and then made the wrong cut. It's just, there's so many things there. If we want to, I don't want to direct the ship here, but to go back to the Nagy coaching thing.
Yeah, let me quickly say Layla Rahimi is her name. She is the co-host with Dan Bernstein on the Bernstein Rahimi show that you can listen to on 670, and we appreciate ESPN and 670 for allowing us to use those clips, although I never really asked, so I'm assuming that they allowed it. The other thing I wanted to say is that particular play I think could work, and in fact they had positive yards out of the Wildcat. The two issues is that Montgomery made the wrong decision as to where to run. There wasn't a hole in the middle of the line, which is where he was headed. He should have bounced it out to the left because there was plenty of blocking. There was a lane towards the sideline where he could have easily picked up the first down and many more yards. So that was an execution decision. The problem from a coaching standpoint is that they like was talked about on by Hampton or one of the radio guys. They screwed it up. They messed up the timing. They messed up the whole thing because the headsets didn't work. They should have known already that they were going to play it. They should have had that play ready to go. They should have signaled it. It destroyed the momentum to come out after a timeout, and now you're in the wild card. It just destroyed the momentum. It's like, you need a pace. You need a rhythm when you're on offense, and they just screwed themselves up. They did it multiple times. They called 3 timeouts when the clock was already stopped. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like Draft Dr. Phil used to say, what are you doing? So it's just a comedy of errors, and it can't come soon enough for me. I hate to talk about a man losing his job, and it has become really embarrassing. I mean, it's not only the national media, but it's the fans at the Chicago Bulls stadium booing Matt Nagy and chanting, "They fire Matt Nagy." Listen to this.
Team that went to the Olympics in '88. John Thompson, late great John Thompson, good strong move, was the Olympic coach there, and the United States finished third.
Right on the foul. His second foul and the first on the Pacers in the fourth.
And then that happened at Matt Nagy's son's football game.
The
That's
Bears
sad.
fans, including me, including you, we all have to have a little bit more class than that. If you recall, Tressman's daughter got attacked.
Yeah, that was awful.
By people on Twitter back in the day as well. In his last season with us in 14. I mean, you got to stay away from. Maybe I'm sounding like a cliche here, but to me, someone's kids are off limits.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fuck with anybody's children and harass them and yell shit like your dad, blows homeless men for money, whatever they're saying.
Yeah.
He's the worst coach ever. Like, leave their fucking children alone.
What was interesting is Yurko on ESPN, he disagreed with that opinion. He said, who cares? It's not a big deal. So they did it in front of the kid. All right, so it happened. Move on. Just go on. And I can see it from that point of view, but I also think it's disrespectful. The guy, he's there to see his son. The family's there. It shouldn't have happened. Now the school for the team that were the fans that were the student fans that were chanting that, they issued an apology and said, those typical stuff. We don't condemn that. We don't condone it. I should say. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit split on that because I like to joke around. So,
well, let's just say hypothetically, and I would throw this at me, but I'm not married right now, so I'm not trying to play throw this at you, but just because you are married, what if for some reason your wife was a presence on Twitter and they didn't like what we were doing specifically on this show, and they were like, Mrs. Gandia, your husband's a foul mouth, and that fucker he works with, fuck him too. We hate Dan, and they were just coming after your wife. You'd be like, dude, leave my wife alone. She has nothing to do with it. I feel like wives and kids should be out of it.
I agree. I personally never involve wives and kids, but that is apples and oranges. I mean, these were a bunch of kids at this high school football game saying, fire Matt Nagy. They weren't saying, fucking Matt Nagy, come and suck my cock, you son of a bitch, motherfucker.
You're right. I'll give you that. No,
that felt good saying all that.
The Trestman situation, they were going after her with a bunch of vulgar shit on Twitter, though.
Yeah.
I can't remember specifics.
It's true.
It was 7 years ago.
Yes.
But she was getting accosted by Bears fans, and we got to be better.
Yeah, absolutely. They were involved. I think because weren't their sisters? Trestman had daughters, and I think they were heavily involved in social media. So in that situation, almost a parent should say, "Listen, I know this isn't a great thing for you, but given my job and given the circumstances of my profession, you might want to stay off social media or use an alias because you might be a target for some of these idiots." It's sad.
Or on the flip side, when Lovey's son got in all that trouble, it'd be like someone targeting Lovey, saying like, "You must have done a shitty job because look at your fucking son." And when his son's a grown man and is not a reflection of Lovey's parenting at all at this point.
Yep. So I wanted to get your point of view on some of the comments that were made in the media mashup. First of all, Hampton said that it smelled of Mark Trestman, the back-to-back 50-point losses to the Patriots at Soldier Field, and then after a bye week, going to Green Bay and losing. The Packers put up a 50-burger on the Bears. Do you feel the same way, that in your gut, does it feel as miserable a time as that time with Mark Trestman?
The truth is, at the time, I didn't make that comparison on Sunday at all. But when I heard Dan say it in the mashup there, I thought about it and was like, well, I literally thought of, gave it when he was saying it. I was like, maybe it's because, the two losses with Pittsburgh and Baltimore kind of make you think that, okay, this guy's done now. There's no way around it. And that's the way everyone felt for Trestman at that time. So maybe that was what he meant, because on paper, the two losses aren't the same at all. 50 burgers 2 weeks in a row versus two games you could have won but lost it within the last minute. So, and those situations aren't congruent at all, but I guess because of what they represent was Hampton's point. So I will concede to see, I see where he's coming from. That's not the analogy I would have jumped at. But yeah, I mean, everyone, there is, like you said, whether it's students at a game or, at the United Center for the Bulls game, it's just, there is momentum now that he's not going to survive. But the thing I keep coming back to is he really going to be fired on Friday? And if so, why would they tell him before the game?
Well, yeah, I mean, that leads me to the whole Dave McGinnis thing, but I don't want to go there yet. Let's continue to talk about the mashup. So my thoughts on the Trestman thing is that I had that feeling Sunday on the Bear football show, our after game show, but it was different feeling when the Bears lost those two games against the Patriots and the Packers. To me, that was like an explosion of embarrassment, anger, just, talk about not wanting. I don't think I saw anything that was reported in the media for 3-4 days after each of those games. I was so pissed off and grumpy and so forth. This team, it's been a slow buildup to that very similar feeling. So, but it's that feeling has been spread out now over this 5-game losing streak that it's almost numbed me. I was pissed off and I was angry at the way the Bears lost on Sunday, but at the same time, I wasn't my usual grumpy, angry TV remote throwing Aldo. So
yeah, and Heidi was there.
Yeah, she was.
Heidi was like, kind of like, oh, okay, and was all right with it too. And like, again, conversely, I told you I was in the fucking dumps.
Man, it was awful. By the way, I'm seeing Heidi tomorrow, so I'm going to bring my camera along and see if we can get her to send a message out to all the barflies.
That's outstanding.
Kevin Fishbane says during the media mashup there, he said, this confirms what we knew about the coaching staff. Really? You needed confirmation, Kevin? Come on.
Yeah, I agree with your point on that.
And then he says, coaches can be too detail oriented. The coaches at Hallishaw. Well, no, I mean, apparently they're not. They didn't take into account. Wait, well, what happens if the headsets go out? What do we do? Do we have to burn a timeout? No, other coaches are just prepared for everything. You think the Patriots coach, Brian Belichick, he's not prepared for everything? Remember that one Monday night game where he had his center, they were going to punt from inside their own end zone. He had the center snap the ball over the punter's head. They took the 2-point safety because they knew that was, you think that Matt Nagy would think of something like that? You think Chris Tabor would think about something like that? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Absolutely not. You know who would have, though? Anybody coaching Green Bay during this fucking 30-year run of killing us, whether it's Mike Sherman, Mike Holmgren, Mike McCarthy, that little boy that's coaching up there now. I don't even know what his name is.
The flower.
Whatever it is. Like, he's a French Canadian or something. I don't know where the fuck he's from. But the little boy that's coaching there now, they would all have something like that, and all of our Bears coaches would be completely stunned and shocked, with the exception of Ditka and maybe Wani. And I'll even say that for Lovey, because Lovey didn't exactly make great adjustments against Green Bay either. The times that he won, he just had the better team, and we won, But like when it was close, look at the NFC Championship game as an example.
Right.
Anyway, we don't need to go off onto that tangent. One more thing real quick, and we'll get back to your cluster. I don't know if you caught this during the game, and I was talking throughout the game because, again, I was watching it with a female there. But one of the things I heard on the broadcast, and I was like, "Are you fucking serious?" So Tony Romo is going through just the litany of history of our defense. Again, if you heard this would be infuriating to you. So he was like, hey, you got Buddy Ryan, and Mike Singletary and Dick Buck, and he threw Mel Tucker's name in there.
Really?
Yeah, and like this lineage of great coordinators and defense in Chicago. I was thinking, fuck, Mel Tucker. They had the worst two defenses in the history of the Bears' 100-plus year organization under Mel Tucker's watch. The 2 years he was a coordinator. You're going to put him in that lineage of great defense?
Yep.
He should be the poster boy of this is what happens to great defense when they have shit coaches. I don't care if he's done well in college subsequently or not. He was horrible with the Bears.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And he didn't have the roster. I mean, they had let the defensive stars on that roster age, and they were coming to a point where they weren't playing at their prime anymore. They had no respect for the head coach. So guys like Lance Briggs are asking for a few days off at the start of training camp so he could attend the opening of his barbecue restaurant. And by the way, Lance, that barbecue must be great because you look like you weigh 400 pounds. Now, wow. He does look big. But there was just a total, Mel Tucker also made the mistake of saying, yeah, I'll coach Lovie Smith's offense or defense. You should never force a coach to coach somebody else's defense. He should have been allowed to implement his own style, his own defenses. He should have had control of that defense. He should have had a big say over the roster and so forth. It was totally unfair to bring him in and have him salvage that season with that terrible defense. I have said before, and I'll say it again tonight, that team, that first-year team with Mark Trestman could have maybe have gone to the playoffs and made some damage if they would have brought in a defensive coordinator and even maybe Mel Tucker, and allowed that coordinator to do things his way. but that was not the case. There were some bad
the one
players on
time
defense.
that the Bears should have said, look, you have to run the system that was here already is to Vince Tobin.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell Vince Tobin, look, you're our new coordinator, but you're running buddies out, you're running buddies D. You're going to keep blitzing, you're going to keep bringing the house, and we're going to keep intimidating people. Then maybe you can win the Super Bowl even if McMahon's hurt. But again, we're talking about something almost 40 years ago now. So.
It's like yesterday to me, brother.
Yeah, I mean that's where the sad thing is, for us Bear fans, that's what we remember so much is things like that, because what we've been given throughout the majority of our lives is exactly what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, I've been over the last few days, I've been recalling things in Bears history that are all negative. There's nothing that pops to mind that's good news right now. But I wanted to get to OB, Ed O'Bradovich. I remember the first time I saw him, it was on NFL Films, and he was talking in that deep baritone voice and that macho attitude, and he was talking about we were men, and we played hard, and we did this. And I fell in love with him already. All right, that guy is a guy that I want to either have in the foxhole with me or go for drinks at a bar or just be my buddy, because this guy is a bad motherfucker. But I totally disagree with him about the Justin Fields running plays. The reason you brought Justin Fields here is to run some plays with his legs. One of the reasons he looked good against the Steelers in that second half was because he was using his legs. Now, I'm not saying, you're going to risk, calling plays up the middle or, high risk plays for injury, but you got to use the multi-dimensional aspects that he possesses, especially now while he's trying to learn the intricacies of reading defenses pre and post snap, and then being accurate in a league where the windows are much tighter than they were in college football. So I disagree with OB on that. You got to call some run plays. The situation was, he's got to learn how to slide better. He's got to make some better decisions. There was this one play, I think the play that he got hurt in. He had David Montgomery wide open on the flat. He fakes the throw to him and then continues on. The linebacker wasn't fooled. He goes down, and that was the last play of the game. If he were to flip that ball to David Montgomery, who had a wide open, he would have easily gotten the first down and many more yards. It would have been an explosive play. The Bears would have had a new set of first downs. So there's a lot into it, but I don't disagree with my man OB on that opinion. What are your thoughts?
I have a comment. Again, I'm a fan of that show, and I listen to it frequently, especially if we win, actually. But I think, again, not disagreeing with you and defending Ed O'Bradovich, but I think part of the reason he's saying that, and I know this from listening to the show a lot, because I like he and Dan Hampton both, and Mark Carmen's fine too, but I listen to it for the Bears legends, let's be honest.
Sure.
Ed really, really loves David Montgomery and thinks that David Montgomery is a top 5 back in this league and thinks that he should be running the ball more. So with that context, I'm guessing, I don't know, I think he's like, why risk your quarterback, and get him hurt when you got that stud behind him? Let's run this guy. That's what he's paid to do. He's a top-notch back. He really thinks Montgomery is just a fucking stud. And it's hard to disagree with that, what we've seen the last 2 seasons. So I think that's part of where his comment comes from. Again, I see his side and can see what you were saying there too. I do have one question though, because again, I haven't followed anything other than I saw the stories about Nagy and was he going to coach past Thursday. What do we know? Have they confirmed the Fields is out of the hospital yet? What do we know about his condition?
There hasn't been a lot shared about his condition. We were told by Matt Nagy today that Andy Dalton will start Thursday and that Fields is still day to day. So what that means with Chicago Bears mumbo jumbo, he could be out the entire year. He could have, fractured ribs and so forth, but they don't tell us anything, which is another thing that bugs me about this organization. They lie to us. And so when they lie to us and then they put an inferior product out on the field, it makes us dislike them even more. And we're in a bad marriage here. We send all our love to the Chicago Bears, and what do they do to us? They
They
lie.
don't even finger our asses when they're sucking their dicks.
Please. It's awful. It's awful. Right away.
Comments like that are the reason Mike North doesn't appear on this show.
Even though he talks like this off camera. Anyway, I'm sorry, Mike. Mully. Congratulations, Mike Mulligan. You said something that I agree with regarding all the booing towards Matt Nagy and fire Matt Nagy and so forth. I've been saying for a couple of years now, Ryan Pace is the guy that deserves all the blame. He hired Matt Nagy. He put together a roster that currently doesn't have any backups at defensive back. Duke Shelley is out for the year. He's on IR. Who's gonna play for Duke Shelley now? It's not
marquee Christian guy, probably.
Yeah, right. Or Xavier Crawford. But it's getting really ugly in certain position areas. Wide receiver, cornerbacks are two that come to mind immediately because there just was no depth. And you came into the season bragging about the depth that you have, but you don't have any depth at those key positions in today's NFL. It's a passing league.
I just do not. And this vindicates me even more because, again, in draft day, when Steve Zimmerman was saying you don't need it, corners, it's a passing league. And I was like, exactly, that's why we need corners. But Zimmerman was saying we don't need a corner. I think, it seems like I was right on this one. But I don't really, I could end up eventually being wrong. I know he's still young, but I have no faith in Vildor at all. None. I think every time I see him, I think this guy's a bum.
See, I disagree with you. He has had the last couple of games, he's had a tough time. But I think what I'm hoping he is just a young player, a bit undersized, who is still learning to play against the top competition. Let's remember, he played at Georgia Southern. And I don't think he's ever going to be a premier cornerback, but I think he could become a serviceable number two, and if not, a serviceable member of your defensive backfield. I just think that we have to give him time, and he's been rushed into that starter role too quickly. Desmond Trufant was supposed to be the starter, but that was another of Ryan Pace's brilliant moves. Yeah, let's bring in a veteran who's got a history of injuries the last 2 seasons. He's only played about 8 games the last 2 seasons. Let's bring him in as the number 2 cornerback because we've got Kindle Vildor ready to go if Trufant goes down. That's just not the way you build a team.
What do you think about, and this is just me spitballing here, what do you think, maybe try Vildor on the inside and put Artie Burns on the other side?
Well, and that's the other thing. So you got the former first-round draft pick, Artie Burns. He's on the practice squad. He's been there. What is really his story? Because I've seen him in a couple of preseason games. He seemed like he was aggressive and really wanted a job and playing hard and so forth. Is he that much worse than what you got? I don't know. I mean, why haven't, because they see him in practice. They videotape the scout practices. That's where he's playing. Is he getting burned in the scout practices by Andy Dalton? And so they say, yeah, we can't fucking put him in there. Andy Dalton's burning him in practice. So what's going on? I don't know. I got a feeling you might see Artie. Bruce Irvin,
Irvin, you should just have him. You should activate him.
I think you'll probably see him go this Thursday. I'd be shocked, and you might see Artie Burns play Thursday too. I mean, I think they're at the bottom of the barrel here, man. All right.
And the comments from Jalen Johnson. I know you sent me that.
Mm-hmm.
I think on Monday.
Right.
That is so damning. That truly is. I mean, Jalen Johnson showed that he didn't respect Nagy with the thing earlier this year with that fine.
I think he's still pissed off about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know, but it just seems like when you got a guy like that, that's a top draft pick, from last season. I mean, he wasn't a first rounder, but still he was, top, what was he, second round for us?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's one of the guys you view as like the future of your team, and he's cutting down Nagy like that. And like, that's clearly about Nagy. It's got to be about Nagy. It's not like, he's got a problem with D. Phillip. No, that's Nagy.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know. I mean, once
the whole
that
team must feel this way.
Once that said, and I think he was being politically correct. Once that said in that interview, I didn't include it in the mashup that, he thought, hey, it could be him talking about Sean Desai. It could be him talking about Chris Tabor. It could be him talking about some of his teammates and just the general rah stuff in the locker room and everyone's. So he didn't say, he said we should not immediately attribute that to Matt Nagy. But then the broadcasters that he was on, I forgot who was on with Wani. They said, yeah, I don't know, Dave, this sounds like Matt Nagy to us, just like you said.
Yeah, I could see, again, Wani's point of view on that as well. Maybe Desai is trying to be Nagy because it feels like he's sort of, a carbon copy of him anyway. Anytime I hear him speak, it's like he's not saying anything. So I could see him trying to be that. But my question, and again, you're not on the team, and I'm not on the team, so it's more or less rhetorical. But if you'd respond to it, it would be cool to. If we were speaking to Jalen Johnson right now, like what kind of approach would he want from a coach at this point? I mean, I don't want to defend Nagy here, but what is he supposed to do when the team's lost 4 or 5 games in a row?
Yeah,
he's got to come up with some measure of motivation for you.
Yeah, I think the motivation is, you're going to fucking ride the pine if you keep fucking making mistakes. Now, Jalen,
he's never done that though. Not the whole time he's been here. I can't think of anybody he's benched.
Mm-hmm. You are right about
other than
that.
Trubisky.
You are right about that. And there were a number of players who said that, they will play for Matt Nagy. There was some support. We'll listen to Sean Gibson in a little while. So players, at least publicly, are saying that they will play hard for Matt Nagy. And maybe that's because he doesn't hold guys more accountable for their errors. Perhaps. I always think that, when a lot of us have this characteristic that when we fuck up, we hate to admonish somebody else when they fuck up, even if they're our employees. I always fuck up too. So, hey, it's all right. I think Matt Nagy is that guy. I think he is. He still says from time to time, I'm still learning on the job. It's like, what the fuck? You've been here 4 years, dude. All right.
I believe it. Ed O'Branovich is always saying Matt Nagy's biggest downfall is that he thinks that everyone on the team is his best friend. He wants to be their buddies.
Yeah. BJ is saying Nagy benched Shelley this year. Yeah, he did. That is true. He he benched them in the opening game of the season and replaced them with a veteran that they had cut. I think it was Crawford. They cut him and then brought him back after he cleared waivers, and then they put Shelley on the practice squad or didn't activate him and activated Crawford. So that was one. There may have been another time when Nagy benched Shelley, but see, that's not coaching to me. That sounds like organizational mismanagement. Yeah, let's cut the guy that we were thinking throughout preseason was going to start game 1. Let's risk putting him out there on waivers. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I want to get to this. Sylvie said that the Packers game was a disaster, and I agree 100% with him. Of course that was a disaster. Of course it was. We should have won that game too. And then the defense allows Aaron Rodgers to march downfield, score, and then he rubs it in our face. He rubs it in the faces of the fans.
Yeah, we haven't won since.
And Waddle says that's not a disaster? That doesn't go on the list of disasters this year? Of course it does, Tom. Sylvie's totally right.
I think Tom's saying that because we always lose to them. So
I think that's what he said. I think in the course of that segment, he did say, yeah, well, we never match up with the Packers anyway, so it's not a disaster. But we had them. We were going to win, as we have so many times against that team. Oh.
I agree with you, though. I think it's that is definitely it's turned out to be the downfall of the season. I mean, that's the mark where they fell apart.
Oh man, it hurts so much. So I want to get to that whole thing today. This columnist, this Pulitzer Prize winning journalist making this report. It would be nice in the news media when they report stuff, whether it's politics or sports or entertainment, that they eliminated the whole unidentified sources. Who the fuck said that? Because I look at it from both ways. I look at it as a member of management. I want to know who the fuck told that reporter that, because I'm going to fire them, and not only fire them, but I'm going to punch them in the face for leaking that out. And then I look at it from the coach's standpoint. It's like, I look at it from the journalist standpoint, great fucking job. Great fucking job that you reported that. You scooped everybody else and so forth. If it is true, but we don't know because he won't announce his sources. And as you said earlier, there was a couple of erroneous statements in his report, which makes you wonder.
Yeah, and again, if you're the Bears management and that's the decision you made, why would you tell Nagy that before the game?
Mm-hmm.
What do you get out of that? Do you think that's supposed to motivate him more to try to win on national television for you?
Mm-hmm.
Or does that just I mean, is the thing is like, well, if you come up with a victory map, maybe we'll change our minds. Like, I can't imagine what would be the benefit from management of telling him that before coaching the game. I just don't understand.
It doesn't make any sense at all, other than, maybe they wanted him to get a head start on finding a real estate agent.
I can't seriously understand why they would say that before the game.
Well, the thing is that you can almost, we shouldn't, if somebody does something wrong, especially years ago, you shouldn't say, well, look at that as evidence that they would fuck this up. But that's exactly what I'm going to do. We're going to go back to 1999. And I know Dan knows this story very well. Back to 1999, when the Chicago Bears have fired Dave Wannstedt and are now looking for a new head coach, and among the people they interview is Dave McGinnis, who used to be on the Chicago Bears staff and a guy that they really, really liked. In fact, Chicago Bears, Dave McGinnis is on his way to the airport and learns that there's been an announcement on the radio that the Chicago Bears had hired him, when he's like saying, well, hold on, hire me. We didn't agree on money. I didn't sign a contract. I didn't sign anything. And it ended up being one of the biggest fiascos in Chicago sports history, and probably sports history, period. I'm going to roll for you a report from ABC 7 Chicago back at the time, 1999. It's a little hissy. It's a poor video, but here it is. This is how the media covered it that day. Reporting is Brad Palmer, a.k.a. the Professor.
The Bears did all they could to try to put a favorable spin on the debacle. Dave McGinnis, like Michael McCaskey, wouldn't go into specifics on why he withdrew his name from consideration, but McCaskey said it wasn't about money and suggested McGinnis just got cold feet.
I don't understand it fully, and you'd have to ask him. I think he considered it a question of whether this was the right time and the right fit.
If I'm a defensive coordinator at Phoenix and I have a chance to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, I'm going to get the job done if I want the job. I'll get through whatever I have to get through, and I'm not putting it on Mac. I'm just telling you how I feel. Because if I'm in that situation and I want to be a head football coach in the National Football League, I'm going to get the deal done. I really feel that way. And if it didn't get done, he wasn't the right person.
Obviously, we couldn't reach an agreement. I mean, it started, there was an announcement made, obviously, before we had even agreed to any terms, and then it went downhill from there.
Dave had given his word to several people that we would talk to them personally, being our families, Mr. Bidwell, and that didn't happen. And
one of the most bizarre things that's happened in NFL
it was
history.
just not right.
McCaskey refused to take responsibility for the premature announcement, inferring that it was the fault of someone else in the organization, but all the evidence points back to him. I asked him to what degree he felt that mistake led to a breakdown in the negotiations.
It sure didn't help that there was a premature announcement.
This has not been, a confrontational type deal. I mean, it's been very amiable, and, this stuff happens in this business. I mean, it's...
it doesn't, Dave. It doesn't happen like this. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Well, I guess you're never announced before you're offered the job. I mean, I understand that, Brad.
When Dave McGinnis wakes up tomorrow morning, maybe all this will seem like a bad dream. But it's going to be a while before the Bears can make the nightmare disappear. This once proud franchise has become the laughingstock, not only of the city, but the National Football League. From Hallis Hall, Brad Palmer, ABC 7 News.
They've become the laughingstock. Doesn't that sound like what people are saying now? We're the laughingstock. We were back in 1999, and we're again today. And we're going around in circles, and it's going down the effing drain because of the McCaskey family. that's that. Eventually, you got to point the finger there.
Well, let's look at the fallout of two things real quickly with that, because I'm going to take, maybe I'm just a homer here, but I'm going to defend Mike McCaskey on this. And let's just, first off, this cost him his job.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, what the fuck did Dave McGinnis do when he went to Phoenix? Or I guess maybe they were Arizona already. He went to the Cardinals and did literally fucking nothing and lost his job in a few years and was done.
It would have been a bad hire anyways, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, well, he was never hired again. And he did have some lineage here. Like during the 80s, he was on the staff of least, I don't know if he was on the 85 staff, but he definitely was when Vince Tobin was coordinator.
Right.
So he had some lineage here. Maybe he is a good hire. I don't know. If to me, if you're Dave McGinnis, you feel honored that this organization wants to give you the gig. And like suddenly you're like, oh, I'm withdrawing my name from the job. Fuck you. Like you should just, okay, be honored. Let's work out the money now. It's like you've just been you've been given the job. If you didn't want the job, why did you interview for it? And so they've decided they like you. Then tell your agent to go get the deal done. Like to have this sanctimonious, like, oh, I'm so appalled. I'm going to withdraw from the job. I've been saying fuck Dave McGinnis since 1999. And I'm glad he failed in Arizona. Fuck Dave McGinnis.
But
who was that country guy in there? Was it his agent?
That was Mark Hatley of the
oh my God.
Yeah.
See, I didn't realize that Mark Hatley talked like him.
Oh yeah. But here's the thing: McCaskey then blames it on somebody else, saying, "Yeah, I didn't leak it; somebody else did." Yeah, right, dude. You were there. Were probably just two people in the room, you and Ted Phillips, offering the guy the job. So it was either you or Ted Phillips. Come to think of it, probably was Ted Phillips.
I know Mike's not with us anymore. But in the event that we were talking to Mike, and I'm sure Mike North could probably answer this.
Mm-hmm.
I know he had that infamous radio hit with Mike McCaskey.
Yep.
So maybe not. Maybe they didn't talk. I don't know what year that was. But I was going to say maybe he could recall, like, after all this dust is settled and stuff, like what was Mike McCaskey's real side of that story?
Mm-hmm.
Did he feel jaded and burned by this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, damn, I thought he was going to take the gig. Like, I can't believe this is where it went. I'd like to know what the organization's real thoughts were after, like 5 years later, that kind of thing, when you look back on it. Yeah. I don't know if we ever got that.
Yeah, I totally agree. That would make a really good novel or not novel, but nonfiction book or documentary or something like that. And in fact, just a good documentary would be all of the fiascos in Bears history. Maybe you and I should work on that. We could do it all like an audio podcast or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. I'd
be easy to write, easy to put together.
Yeah, the only thing is,
a lot of material.
To be as thorough as we should be, we would need someone that could reference. I'm sure they made some mistakes during Hollis's days too.
Oh, sure. I
like letting George Allen leave for one.
Right. Yeah, we need a historian, somebody like a Don Pearson, or maybe even a Dan Pompei.
What about the guy that used to do the Twilight Zone show here?
Les Grobstein.
Yeah, somebody like that.
Les would be great. If he would answer one of my texts, I'll ask him. He's not the most technically inclined person in the world. All right, I want to take you to Halas Hall today. So the reports come out that this Pulitzer Prize winning author says that the Bears are going to part ways with Matt Nagy, and poor Matt. I actually feel sorry for Matt Nagy. I mean, that poor guy is trying to prepare maybe for his last game, and they're just firing questions at him. So I pulled like 3 minutes from the press conference. This is Matt Nagy responding to media questions about whether he has been told Thursday is his last day on the job.
This will be your last game as president.
That is not accurate. I have not, I have great communication with ownership, with George and Ted and Ryan, but I have not had any discussions.
What have been your discussions with George and Ted and Ryan this week?
Just for this week, we have not talked this week, and that was scheduled. That's been we have a good schedule over the years where we have discussions. Like you guys always hear us talk about. We have constant communication. I always think it's good and healthy, and And so we stayed on course. And with the bye week and then with the short turnaround with game prep, we have not.
Do you have assurance that you'll coach the rest of the season, man?
Say that again?
Do you have assurance that you'll coach
Again, my focus right now is on these players and on Detroit. That's it. And I think that's my job as a head coach and a leader, is to do that. These players have been amazing. They've been great. And so, you have this quick turnaround after a tough loss like that, and now here we go. It's the only thing that we can do is focus on the now and trying to do everything we can. So, Thursday's going to be here quickly, and we have one objective, that's to win the game.
To the question, though, is it yes or no on?
Again, it's not something I'm focused at. I respect that. I respect the question, but my focus is not on that.
What? You obviously know things like this will swirl out there.
Sure.
In a situation like this. What is your curiosity personally of your job status and how you go about making sure that communication line stays as sharp as it's been?
Absolutely. I think, you guys can probably admit that for me I've been very honest throughout the years, and I think that's important when anybody in any type of role as a leader, as a head coach, you have to be able to understand that when you are a leader or a head coach in any sport, whatever level, you want to do everything you can to help the team win. So that's my job, and but at the same point in time, you got to go day to day. And we understand where we're at as a team, but our focus has to be on doing everything we can to win Thursday.
Matt, as just a human, like hearing all of these
Yeah.
things moving around you, how difficult is that to keep the focus where it is?
You know what? It's not, because I understand the media world and the social media world, I should say, in general, and I understand that that's that goes on as we're going on inside the building. But for us, you can't focus on that. You have to stay focused on what you do every day, which is football and the X's and O's and all of that. I mean, it's important to do that. And you're right. I mean, it can, in times like this, like no matter what, when you go through this stuff, there's learning lessons through all of it. But you have to be able to understand that this is for us, our job is to focus on day to day and winning this game on Thursday, and that's it. That's as simple as I keep it.
Dan, do you feel sorry for him?
Truly, I don't. Maybe I should. But one of the things he said in that, he's like, "You guys know I've been honest." I mean, really? Do we know that?
No, he hasn't.
It feels like you don't come out and say like out and out lies, white lies, as they say, but he'll not answer the question and give you like a 3 or 4 minute diatribe about something irrelevant that doesn't answer the question. But he I guess technically didn't lie, but he didn't address the question. So he has been a bullshitter, and I don't think he's even aware of that. I don't think he's even cognizant of the fact that he's been a bullshitter.
Well, and that's a trait of narcissists, is that they don't realize the damage they're creating around them and their deceptions and so forth. So maybe, hey, I'm a psychologist. I play one here at the bar room. Maybe that's the diagnosis for Matt Nagy. But I do feel a little sorry for him because, when he came here to Chicago, there was this great optimism, finally got rid of John Fox. What a nincompoop he was. Just, old, no innovation, crusty, sounded like we used to have a guy here at the bar room named Jose Cotto, who used to say that he sounded like a guy that had smoked 3 packs of Pall Mall cigarettes. and that was John Fox. Finally got rid of him. Here comes Nagy. He comes from the Andy Reid trees, and great opening season. There were some miscues. Clearly, their offense was not as great as we wanted it to be, but we kind of, laid all the blame on Mitchell Trubisky, and he certainly deserved a lot of it. But we get to the playoffs, and then everything just starts to fall apart, And have you ever seen the movie Amadeus?
Yes, from like 84.
Yeah, exactly. Milos Forman, director. I talked about this on Sunday at Bear Football, and Danny Sherman was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But
I had to watch that in school for some reason.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie. Amadeus Mozart is this incredibly prolific composer of symphony orchestras. He's doing it as a teenager, as a kid. He's writing full orchestra arrangements. And finally, when he becomes a young adult, he meets a guy named Soler, who at the time was considered the most preeminent composer in Austria, wherever it took place. And so Soler looks over the musical notes that this young Amadeus has been doing, and you see this expression on his face. And it turns from anger to jealousy to resignation, all in one shot, to resignation that I can never be as good as this guy. This guy has taught me what music can be, and I can't do this. And I think that's what Matt Nagy is going through now, is that realization that I had my opportunity here to be a head coach, and I'm just not good enough. And so for anybody who has experienced their dream in life to go through that and to kind of come to that realization, yeah, I'm just kind of a mediocre producer or mediocre mailman or whatever the fuck it is, it's fucking hard to deal with. And so, yes, I do feel a little bad for the guy. Having said that, if he needs help packing, I'm available all day Saturday. I'll be glad to come over.
Well, bottom line, do you think if you had to bet some money, even if it's $20 right now, do you think that this report, because first off, I didn't even know A-Rob had a podcast. I know he's a friend of the network, but I didn't know that he even had a podcast or who this other gentleman was that broke the story that was the podcast host.
Right.
But do you think if you had to literally say, all right, here's my money, if you're talking odds with Mike North and gambling on this, is this story authentic? Is he done after Thursday?
So the podcast report from Alan Robinson was the co-host said that the locker room wanted Nagy gone, that there was turmoil, that there was unhappiness with him and so forth. A-Rob apparently told somebody in the media today, that's bullshit. I speak for myself. Everything is cool, blah, blah, blah. So this podcast host, he does a basketball podcast with A-Rob. He's sticking to his guns, but I got a feeling they might not be doing a podcast much longer. So, but I do believe that Matt Nagy will be coaching his last game Thursday. Has it all turned out the way the former Pulitzer Prize winning journalist painted it out to be? I doubt it. To me, the handwriting has been on the wall. Danny Shimon on Sunday on our network here says, I'm just speculating. I don't have any inside information, but if the Bears lose on Thursday, I predict that Matt Nagy will be fired on Friday. And so I think it's in the air. And so maybe this reporter is just kind of jumping on that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe he's exaggerating something he heard, or maybe he made it up. I don't know. But I do, to answer your question in a very long-winded manner, I do believe that Nagy will be fired before the end of the season, and it will probably happen on Friday.
I feel like that overwhelmingly Bears fans would view that positively.
Oh, yeah.
I think it would behoove George to make the move. I really do. But if you're asking me to put my money down, I'm going to say they're going to stay pat and say that this report was false, and they're still collaborating, and they're still going to go at it, and they hope to finish 11-7 and or 11 or 10-8 or whatever. I don't think so. I bet he's still here. I hope I'm wrong.
See, everyone that says, that they haven't done it in their history and so forth, well, you got to remember that for more than half of the years that the team has been in existence, George Halas was the coach. And so he wasn't going to fire himself in midseason. And so, then Mike Ditka, if you read one of the biographies on him, I think it was written by Army Katayan. He was a former CBS sports reporter. He said that Mike Ditka was really close to being fired in 1983 because he was so erratic and so volatile that he was actually pissing off, maybe scaring McCaskey. McCaskey didn't like him. And Jerry Venisi, who was then the general manager, he acted as the mediator, and he would calm Ditka down and says, "No, you can't say that. No, you can't do that." And the gist of this book, that if it wasn't for Jerry Venisi coming in between him and McCaskey would have fired him before that 1983 season was up. So I just think that there have been some situations in Bears history that coaches were close to being fired, Ditka, Trestman, but things have changed. And let's remember, the rule now in the NFL is that you can begin interviewing coaches, assistant coaches, and coordinators from other teams in the last 2 weeks, starting in week 16 of the NFL. You got to get the permission of the team. They've got to consent it. And in some cases, they cannot say no. If it's, for a head coaching job, you can't say no. So that, the Bears might want to get a leg up on finding the successor for Matt Nagy. The $64,000 question again is, Ryan Pace, should he be doing the fucking hiring? Should Ted Phillips be involved? Should George McCaskey be involved? All I got to say is Ed O'Bradovich said it perfectly.
You morons!
I like that.
Great.
I got to do it one more time. Hold on a second.
You morons!
I did a cute little graphic with it too.
Ed is that fired up every time I listen too. Even when they win, he's that mad.
He is awesome. He is awesome. I wish I could have lunch with him or a beer with him or anything with him. Just talk to him for a couple of hours. Maybe I'll ask. North had him on his show. I'll ask North, hey, can we call him? I got his phone number. Can I call him and see if he'll come on? It would be a blast for the two of us to interview him.
Imagine Greg Gabriel involved in that conversation.
Oof, man. By the way, Greg was like this close to coming on to tonight's show.
I don't believe that.
Yes, he was so effing pissed off at the stuff that he was reading on Twitter. And in particular, people saying that, people in the media saying that the McCaskeys are to blame for this situation today because they didn't come out and either refute the report or are to blame because they allowed it to leak out. And he was just fucking livid that the media is blaming the McCaskey family for this. So he was like, I need to vent. He left me a long text message. And I said, well, you want to come on today? And then it was a long delay. And he says, you know what? I'll just wait for Friday because we're going to do a special show on Friday. So he will be on fire on Friday. By the way, another guy that was on fire today was Chris Tabor. I don't know if you can get to your video screen or anything like this, because I got some sound from today's press conference with the Bears, and Tabor looked like he was going to beat the shit out of everybody that was asking him questions about Matt Nagy's future. I'll play that. It's about 2 minutes long.
But there's a report out this morning that Matt has been informed that he won't be coaching past Thursday afternoon. What is your understanding right now of the status of the coaching staff and Matt?
My status is that we're going to go to walkthrough, then I'm going to go to practice, and then on Thursday I'm going to coach our tails off to win the football game. I don't know anything about that report, and reports are just reports to me. I have a job to do, so I'm going to stick to that job. And that's not coach speak, and I'm not trying to get fired up about the question, but we're going to do our job.
You had conversations with Matt this morning about?
Absolutely not. We've had conversations about winning the football game and what we need to do better on special teams.
Just to be clear, even if that report was true, he has not informed you or the players or anything like that of.
No, guys, and I understand where you're going with all this, and unfortunately, guys, speculation is speculation. I'd love to talk about the Detroit Lions, okay, and I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, guys, we have a job to do, and watched a lot of film. I mean, we're leaving tomorrow. Against, in my world, special teams, they're a good unit. So we're working.
What do you think about what Mr. Tabor said there?
You
don't give a shit.
It's one of those, like, That's probably what he should say, but it sounded authentic to me.
I thought so too. I've never been a big Chris Tabor fan, but listening to him defend his coach, and he said, I'll play for this guy anytime. And, I like him. He's authentic and all this stuff. And, who's to say? I don't think he's lying about that. I think he's probably grateful that he hasn't been fired for all the fuck ups that he's done. And so that's why he's speaking so nicely about Matt Nagy. That's why he likes him so much. So here is Tashawn Gibson asked about all of this turmoil. Is it affecting the locker room and so forth?
It's been a normal day in the locker room, normal conversations. No, from the guys in which I've personally been talking to, that conversation haven't peaked in none of the circles in the conversation in which I've had. I can't speak for everybody in the locker room, but it's nothing that myself personally is focused on, because obviously that is beyond and above my pay grade. Coach Nagy is my coach, man, and I'm gonna play for him. I think everybody in the locker room love playing for Nagy. So doing that and saying, man, we just got to go out there and win football games. Obviously, we understand that. Obviously, we're not winning right now, and everything is scrutinized. But I don't see any distractions on that tip of guys talking about what they heard or what's going on. We're just itching to win a football game, and I think that's more so the conversations that's being had. Obviously, it was a tough loss Sunday. So anything other than that, I personally couldn't speak on that and tell you what's the energy, man. The energy is business as usual, man. We got to win this game on Thursday and go from there.
Dan, I'm glad that he is saying that, and I'm hoping that it's true, but there's no fucking way. The Lions are going to beat the Bears. There's just too much turmoil that has happened here the last few days, the way the team has played the last 5 games, and even in their victories, they never won in a way, I'll take that back. But even their victories had this smell, like Dan Hampton said, of mediocrity, of a 500 team. And right now, it's a 500 team that is on a 5-game losing streak, that there's been turmoil all week about the coach being fired, turmoil about the players in the locker room giving up on him and so forth. This has got to affect them on Turkey Day, and I think they're going to get blown away by the Lions. What do you think?
Who's playing quarterback? Is Goff back, or is
they haven't announced it yet?
Goff,
I think Dan Campbell said that Goff is a possibility to play. So they're playing that whole fucking game of making the Bears guess who's going to be at quarterback.
Yeah, so I don't know. If I had to bet my money once again, God, it just seems like this would be the week that the Bears would win, and they'd be like, well, you know what? We were going to fire Nagy, but we're going to keep him around now because he had this rousing victory on Thanksgiving Day. Like he's Rasputin. Or the way that, remember, they used to call Wayne Fonts that, because over and over again, right, Detroit wanted Fonts gone, at least the media and everybody, and he would save his job somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just see that happening. Like we win against a bad team, or at least a team that's, on par with us,
mm-hmm,
right there with us, even though the Bears have 3 victories to Detroit's 0, which makes you feel like the Bears will give them their first win. I don't know. I honestly just don't know, but I feel like more than likely Nagy would get a victory and they'd be like, oh, let's just go ahead and let him run the string out. Let's just go ahead and keep it.
Yeah. Steven says, even if they beat the Lions, you beat the Lions. So what's the big deal? What have you accomplished? You got to build a winning culture.
A division game is important.
Yeah.
Either way.
You got to build a winning culture. All of these guys, the Jalen Johnsons, everyone that you think is a young guy that's a nucleus for this team, you don't want them to get blown away and lose every game. You want them to go out there and play hard, and you want them to establish a winning tradition and winning muscle memory and just win. It's good for them. It makes for a better day for me. It accomplishes a lot, Stephen, in my mind. I don't understand fans just, giving up and saying, fuck it, let's just lose the rest of the way. For what? A higher second-round draft pick?
Yeah, I was going to say our first-round pick's going to the Giants regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. You need to win. I don't give a shit. I want to win, and I want a new coach and a new GM. And winning at this point should not mean that we can't have the other two, because the evidence is in. everybody should know that these guys should not be. You can't let them get away with what they did last year, which was they should have been fired after that 6-game losing streak. And because they snuck into the playoffs, they got another chance. That was the big thing. In one of the interviews, I didn't have time to include it, but a reporter named Kaylin, I'm sorry, I forgot her last name, but she made the point that last year was the time to fire Matt Nagy because you had made the decision that Mitchell Trubisky was not going to be your quarterback moving forward. So you should always bring in a new head coach and help, and that coach should be part of the decision of who to bring in at quarterback. So because there should be that marriage, there should be that, and I totally agree with that. Totally agree. Nagy should have been gone last year.
What do you think about whomever said that in the piece? That basically you repeat, I think it was Yurko, right? That was saying, well, you're just doing what we did to Nagy and saying you got to have Trubisky as your quarterback. Now we're going to be saying, well, you have to have Fields as your quarterback. Although, to me, those aren't necessarily equivalent because most people, I think it's fair to surmise that most people, coaches, would be happier with Fields than they would be Mitch.
That's interesting. I don't know how to feel about that. I think at this point, if he's 100% healthy and there isn't any issue with his ribs, he should be out there getting snaps. And hopefully A-Rob is healthy. Give him all the best weapons that he can use. And let's hope that he can get back to that second half of the Steelers game and continue to build on that and erase that horrible first half that he had. It wasn't horrible, but it was fucking not very impressive.
It was bad. He was outplayed by the other guy.
Yeah, I
don't even know the other guy's name. Huntley?
Yeah, Huntley something.
I don't even know who he is.
Undrafted
the Bears
free agent.
always lose to the guys that are making their first start.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So who is it now? It's do you remember the names, guys, who are making their first start and they lose?
Colin Kaepernick, Brock Osweiler.
That's right. 3
different times when he started with his first starts in Miami, in Houston, and in Denver.
Oh my God. It's the Bears. It's the Bears. All right. So I wanted to did you do any research or open up the memory banks on all-time awful teams?
Yeah, I didn't know how many teams you wanted me to go into it, but I've got some off the top of my head for sure.
Go for it, brother. Who's the first one?
Am I trying to say this is the all-time worst? Or
no, however you want to handle it. It's totally up to you. Just let your memory.
This is kind of my wheelhouse of. Let me stress this again. Like for yourself or Mike North, you're probably going to mention maybe the 69 Bears that won 1 game.
Definitely on my list.
But that's before me, right?
Sure.
So what I'm going to, again, Neil Armstrong was a coach when I was born, but I didn't see any Neil Armstrong. I was too young.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say this is Mike Ditka through present.
Okay. Excellent guideline.
I'm going to say the most miserable team that I probably saw was John Fox's 2016 team that was 3-13.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now we had Jordan Howard, and it looked like he had like 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
And I thought at the very least we've got this power back that we really haven't had since Walter.
Right.
That's just going to run people over, and he set the all-time rushing record for rookies that year in the Bears organization. So we thought we had, like, you remember how Phil was all over Howard. So was I, man.
Mm-hmm.
I had Howard's jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I still do. I've got the 1940s. The one that's blue with the orange.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that they don't wear anymore. I have the Jordan Howard 24 jersey in that one. But that 13 team was just awful. And then the next season wasn't much better. Because remember, our big replacement was to get that receiver from San Diego. What was his name? If he had one more catch, it would have affected the draft and the next season.
God, I'm forgetting his name. Big, tall guy.
He went to the Colts after us.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's when we had literally no wide receivers whatsoever.
It was awful.
Yeah, and then the Mike Glennon era and Jay's winding down there at 16. Now, that was a miserable team. The 2002 team was miserable for different reasons, and it wasn't because, going into the season, it certainly didn't feel that way. I've talked about this on air before. They started 2-0. They had a 20-point lead in week 3, and they blow that game to the Saints, and all the momentum changed when Leon Johnson fumbled because he was looking into the sunlight on a punt return.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
And as a result, they lost 8 games in a row, but everybody kept getting hurt at that turf at the University of Illinois when they were in Champaign. Like everybody, like freak injuries, like, Colombo and Rex Tucker, a bunch of these guys, like never played for the Bears again, it seemed like, and everyone was getting hurt. And it was coming off that 13-3 magical season of 2001, where you just hoped that, hey, maybe we can put this together. We're just a couple of pieces away from maybe winning the NFC. And then suddenly you're you're just exactly what everyone said you were. You're bums. You're lucky. You were lucky last year. I hated hearing that. The Bears aren't really that good. They're just lucky. And, this shit can't continue. And you're like, hey, man, fuck that. We got a good defense. And then what happens? Ted Washington gets hurt against Atlanta in, I think, week 2. And then there's suddenly the whole defense crumbles.
Yep.
And it's just, man, that was so frustrating. And like I said, I think 16 was probably the worst because they just had no talent versus 02 circumstances, injuries, and anything that could go wrong can. The Murphy's Law cliche. So 02 was right there. 16's right there. The 2014 Mark Trestman team, because there was so much talent on the team.
Oh my gosh.
You look at that offense, you got Alshon, you've got Brandon Marshall, you've got Martellus Bennett, you've got Matt Forte, you've got Jay Cutler. And I know a lot of people don't love Cutler, but Cutler had a fucking arm. There's no disputing that to me. And then suddenly the defense crumbles. And that season they were 3-3 at one point and finished 5-11. So it was a massive debacle. It was horrible. And then, like you said, the 50-point games back to back against New England and Green Bay, and then the Aaron, what was his name? Aaron, whatever the fuck, the offensive coordinator was crying because
Cromer.
Threw Jay under the bus to the media, and I mean, how low can you go than that?
By the way, you bring up something interesting here. That Aaron Cromer thing, and then Mark Trestman talking to John Gruden on that Monday night game. And
trying to blame Jay, and it's not my fault.
Exactly. Well, it appears that Ryan Pace was doing the same thing with Tony Romo this Sunday. I mean, Romo was blowing Pace, man, just saying.
Oh, there's a lot of good young talent here. Look at this offensive line.
Yes.
And who on the offensive, nobody thinks the offensive line's any good. Nobody.
No, I mean, they're the 2 guards, both second-round picks, they should be good, but they didn't play very good Sunday. They haven't played very good all season long. But the long story short is Ryan Pace factors into this whole thing with Matt Nagy's future and it, in a huge way. And I think that if the story's ever told, we will look back at mid-November, and that was a time Ryan Pace took his buddy, Matt Nagy, and threw him in front of a fucking bus so that he could save his job.
Good, man, because that guy deserved it. I hate to say it, but I got a couple more teams want me to reminisce.
Please do.
All right. Ditka's last year, 92. Again, they lose to Dallas in the playoff game, but they're 10-6. And I know that a lot of players were older and slower and things like that, but I didn't think that there was any way that team would suddenly be 5-11.
Yeah.
And I just didn't see it. Maybe everybody else did, but you looked on the defense was okay. They weren't vaunted anymore. And Harbaugh just had a really good year throwing the ball in terms of the context of Bears quarterbacks, not for anybody else. But the 91 Bears were slinging the rock more than they ever had before. So it feels like, we're able to pass the ball a little bit now. If we can just keep Anderson and Muster together and keep them healthy, we can always run the ball with our offensive line. Now we can throw a little bit, and Jim's got more experience. And And then they went opening day, the last play of the game, a 4th and goal, throws a touchdown to Waddle to beat Detroit, the team that had bedeviled us in 91 and stolen the division from us. And like, hey man, here we go. Let's go. The Bears are back. And then they finished 5-11. That was extremely frustrating. And obviously I said this on the air before too, and it's true. And I was a kid, but I still had the feeling, because Ditka in that game in the Metrodome where he just erupted on Harbaugh, which again he should have, but all the people that I've heard evaluate that game posthumously have said that Harbaugh made the right audible. It was Neil Anderson who didn't fucking hear it because of the noise in the Metrodome. So it's like if Neil would have turned around, then the play works. But my point was, I remember seeing Ditka, and he had his hair all slicked back, and he had the glasses on, and he just looked so old. He just looks so old. And when he blew up on Harbaugh on the sideline, even though like in the past, I love that, I just got this terrible feeling at that moment in time as an 11-year-old watching that game, soon to be 12. I honestly thought, oh man, he's not going to make it. He's going to be fired. I just had that feeling. He looks old. He's out of touch, and I hated feeling that because as a kid, that dude was my, one of my, like, to me, he was one of the toughest men in the world. Like I was like, if Evander Holyfield can't beat Mike Tyson, by God, Mike Ditka could. I'm maybe exaggerating.
Yeah.
I just thought Ditka was everything. Like I bought in as a kid. I just thought this guy was he was our god almost. And he's a winner, and just seeing that was painful. To see that team lose and to see him looking befuddled and old, and so that sucked. And then a couple more real quick: the 97 and 98 4-12 teams with Wani. That 97 team starting out, 0-7 before they won that Monday night game against Miami. And just awful. I mean, just everything goes wrong. So Eric Kramer gets hurt. They make the trade for Meyer. And then suddenly Kramer comes back because Meyer's so bad and takes the job, even though he's still kind of hurt. And they have nothing. Salam just had, 1,000 yards in 95. Looks solid as a rookie. And he's basically done already. And again, as we said, Conway and Graham Conway's hurt. Graham's gone. You can't throw the ball. You can't run the ball. You can't play defense. It was a miserable time. And then in 98, they start out 0-4, and it's kind of like the current day Bears, like where they're in most of the games, with the exception of that Cleveland game this year, where it's just like they had or the Tampa game where they had no shot. But for the most part, the 98 team was losing by a couple of points here or there, but they were still just losing all the time. So those last 2 Wani years, it's hard to forget those two. And then the last one I'll give you, that 89 team, you're coming off Ditka being coach of the year, the NFC championship. I didn't like the move to trade Jim McMahon. But I stayed with the Bears. I'm not going to lie. I thought about for a second, did I go to San Diego too and become a Charger fan? I was like, I can't. Even at 8, I was like, I'm a Bears fan. And it was McMahon the reason I became a Bears fan. So that was a tough move. And at the time, if you'd asked the kid version of me, what are we going to do with Mike Tomczak? I'd have been like, lose. We're going to lose with Mike Tomczak. But we started out 4-0. You start that fucking year out 4-0. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong about Tomczak. All right, I'll start cheering for Tomczak then. And then they finished the year 6-10. And like Ditka said in one of his press conferences, we may not win another game. And they fucking didn't. They didn't win anymore. They lost like the last 6 or 7 at the end of the year. It was awful.
Yeah.
Including the instant replay game against the Packers, where we were cheated with Don Mikowski.
Right. Yeah, I got to find that soundbite. We're not going to lose. We're not going to win another game.
He said that Donnell Wolford couldn't cover anybody and all that stuff.
Right.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
We drafted a guy who can't cover any fucking body.
That's because he was always getting fucked up, but that's another story.
Donnell Wolford ended up being a pretty good pick. He wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he was good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but he just liked to party a little too much. I have firsthand knowledge of that. I got to interrupt you here, Dan. I got to interrupt you, Dan. I got to interrupt you because we're getting breaking news here, and I want to thank Toa and Jamal in the chat room for letting us know that Brad Biggs is reporting that Matt Nagy met with Chicago Bears ownership before Tuesday's second walkthrough, sources are saying, and then he later canceled the rest of the day's meeting. That's the headline at the ChicagoTribune.com, the story. I'll read a paragraph or two. If Matt Nagy was not convincing when he spoke about his future with media Tuesday afternoon, he was less convincing with the Chicago Bears players later in the day after the team wrapped up its second walkthrough at Walter Payton Center in Lake Forest. The embattled coach said a Patch.com report that the Bears have told him he will be fired after Thursday's game against the Lions is not accurate, but according to multiple sources, he offered little to make players believe he will be around much longer, leaving at least some players dismayed at the organization's lack of direction. That was before Nagy canceled all meetings scheduled for the rest of Tuesday afternoon and evening, the sources said, a highly unusual move that prompted one source to wonder if Nagy is resigned to his fate, and leaves me to wonder if Nagy isn't contemplating resigning right now and saying,
that's what I was going to say,
fuck this.
Resign. Resign is the good word. If you're Matt Nagy right now, I mean, of course, I know his contract has to play into it, but in terms of your ego, now, if you want to really empathize with the man for just a moment, if we could all pretend that we liked him, we wished him well, especially when he got hired. If you could just be pro Nagy for a second, if you're Matt Nagy right now, you have to be thinking, man, fuck this team. Like, what do you mean? How can they fire me in the media and not just come to me? So I wouldn't be surprised if he told his agent, hey, find a way for me to resign and not lose any money.
This is Dave McGinnis all over again. That's why I found that. That's why I played that, because this is another botched operation by the Chicago Bears management. This is totally fucked up. And I do care enough for a fellow human being to see that he is being treated here like a fucking idiot. Yeah, I don't like Matt Nagy. Yeah, I don't want him coaching my football team. Yeah, I don't want him coaching my kids' football team. But that doesn't matter. He is being treated unfairly here. He should, if they really knew that they were going to fire him, they should have kept their fucking mouths shut until after the game on Thursday and then did the deed, or should have fired him at the bye, because they should have known by then. And they would have given them time during that bye week to set up some type of structure for the rest of the season. This is so fucked up. And, you know, I hate to be here defending Matt Nagy, but the fuck, man, it's bad enough that his kid is being, you know, abused at a football game. But now this is even worse. And it's worse for us fans, man, because we're seeing this dysfunctional fucking football team. And we start to question, is this really a good idea to be spending so much time following these fucking idiots? Maybe the Chargers would have been a better idea for you, Dan.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know what to say. Canceling the meetings and all that, like, if I'm trying to put myself in his position, you have to think that's got to be something to do with this report. It has to be.
Yeah. Oh, fucking sure.
It has to be like, what are you doing, guys? Like, I'm getting bombarded with questions. Am I the coach or am I not the fucking coach?
Exactly. I mean, wouldn't you do that? I mean, you've told me some things about
any fair-minded person listening or watching would say, or would be thinking right now, if you want to fire me, then fucking find somebody else to coach Thursday. Like, why am I coaching Thursday if I'm done after the game? Fuck it, let's be done now. Like, why would you coach it? And again, I don't want to veer off too much, but follow me on this. So when Wani was at Pitt, and he had Shady McCoy and stuff like West Virginia, and I say this because I'm from West Virginia, but I was still rooting for Pitt though, but because I liked Wani, you know. But West Virginia was like 28-point favorites in Morgantown. All they had to do was beat Pitt, which was their rival before college football became, you know, all about money, and they have to play teams in Texas and shit that aren't anywhere near us. But all they had to do was beat Pitt to play for the national championship. The 28-point favorites. They lose the game. And before they're going to a lesser bowl game now, Rich Rodriguez just says, fuck it, I'm done. Because he was trying to go to Michigan anyway, which ended up being a failure for him. But he didn't go ahead and coach the bowl game because the report came out that he was going to be leaving after the bowl game. So instead of that, I don't know whose decision it was, either coaches or West Virginia's. Somewhere along the lines, they said, fuck it, don't even coach the bowl game. You're leaving. So why coach the next game? You're gone. You're done. So same thing can apply here. If you're Nagy, if I'm done Friday, I'm done on Wednesday. Why am I going to coach Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, if you're Nagy, why would you want to coach Thursday?
I think, I would respect them more if these reports are true. I would respect them a bit more if he just said, oh, it's fucking over. I ain't going to do this. Now, a couple of great comments here. Where was Mr. Mack? Or was it Mr. Mack? No, or Muck Muck said something about, do you think that they're trying to force Nagy to resign? Which some employers try to do that. Let's not fucking pay the rest of his contract. Let's see if we can get him to resign and just fuck with him.
That's pretty diabolical. If that was,
it would be.
I don't know. The team that never fires anybody in the middle of the season, I could be gullible, but I don't think that they're maniacal like that. I just don't.
Yeah. What about what Jamal says? He asked the question, do you think that the fans, that the McCaskey family is reacting to the fans and basically being the pressuring? This is his chat room. Thanks, Tooch. Do you think Bears ownership is being pressured by the fans to make a move here?
Probably the thing at the United Center didn't help.
Fucking A.
I mean, seriously, they had to have seen it. They had to have.
Sure.
To quote, from a few years ago, maybe that pissed Virginia off again.
Yep. Hey, by the way, you got to give it up to Bulls fans. They surely know their football, right? They booed Mitch Trubisky.
They hated Mitch.
Those Bulls fans, they know a winner when they see them, and they know a loser.
And they liked Fields.
That's right. That's good, man. I'm so proud to be a Bulls fan.
They liked Fields, so maybe again that's something else. Yeah, if he really does have the same injury that Sims had that we talked about via text, if it's his spleen, he's got to be done the rest of the year.
Yeah. Back Truth 9 has a question for me. He says, as upsetting as this sounds, would you feel better with Nagy here Monday or gone? Or would you rather this all be false and Nagy's here to the end of the season? Listen, I think he has to be fired in season because of the new rule that allows you to get a jump start on interviewing coaching prospects starting week 16. So he's got to be fired. But the issue I think that we're talking about here is how botched this whole fucking thing is. You think these fucking players are going to be prepared to play on Thanksgiving Day? They're not. This is all they're talking about. Tayshaun Gibson saying, we really haven't been talking about it much in the locker room. Bullshit. Brad Biggs. Credit Brad Biggs. Sometimes I get on him for not, digging in and getting breaking news. He was fucking doing it today when he issued this report at 8:31 Central over at ChicagoTribune.com. Great job, Brad Biggs. You're getting the story. These guys, everybody in the team, and I bet you almost everybody at Halsall in the organization, they're saying, holy fuck, man, this is like the other McCaskey. He fucked that whole Dave McGinnis thing up. He's fucking this thing up too. This is so embarrassing, man. Can we talk about your sex life?
Do you want to do that now? Or it's still pretty early in the show.
I know. I'm getting horny.
I wanted to say one more thing real quick.
Please.
Let's go back, rewind just a minute.
Okay.
In my reminiscing of the old days, I still think one of the moves that I feel like that the Bears, like, it was a bad move of letting this guy go. I thought we should have kept Mark Carrier, the safety. I thought that guy should have retired a Bear, hard hitting.
10 interceptions in his rookie year.
Yeah, could get interceptions and was a fucking man. If anything, he probably hit too hard. Like today's game, he'd be considered filthy dirty.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought that was a move that really hurt us going into, say, the middle of Wani's term, was losing his presence at safety. And then Gale retired too. So then you lost the stability of having two good safeties back there. And that's part of what really hurt Wani the rest of the way through. But having said that, my question was to you or the the bar room here. What are anyone else's memories on these bad teams?
Oh man. Yeah, I got to go back to that 1-13 season. This is the first. Was it my first? Yeah, it was probably my first full season where every game I was either watching it on TV or listening to the radio. And I think most of the home games were on the radio because the NFL had a blackout rule. If the stadium wasn't sold out, then you cannot telecast it locally. Fucked up, stupid rule. But I listened to or watched every game, so I was really into the season. Prior to that season, in 1967, I started becoming acclimated with the Bears and Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus, and was reading all these articles about how great they were and so forth. Well, the fucking season falls apart. It's awful. And I was just so dejected, but I loved the game, and I loved the Bears uniforms, and I loved the history that I've been reading about. And I said, fuck it, it's just a bad year. But no, it was a fucking bad decade or two after that. Yeah. So I'll ask people in the chat room, what are some of the terrible seasons? I saw Stephen Nagishi actually had a list of, see if you can find that for me too. Stephen Nagishi listed a number of years. I think many of them were the same ones that you were talking about. But there's just, for me, I'm a 63-year-old man. There's just too fucking many to pick from. But that 1-13 definitely did leave an emotional scar. And it was also on top of other Chicago sports disasters. The year later, the Chicago Blackhawks make it to the Stanley Cup playoffs, Game 7 here in Chicago. They're winning 2-0, and the Canadians fucking score 3 goals late in the game and beat the Blackhawks. I literally fucking cried. The Chicago Cubs had a 10-game lead September 1st, 1 month to go in the season. They lose the 10-game lead. They're out of the playoffs. The amazing Mets go to the World Series, and they win it all. And I'm crying again. And the Bulls didn't have good teams back then either. And I'm thinking, man, maybe I should have stayed in fucking New York where I live. Stephen Nagishi says the 1992, 97, 98, 2002, 2004, 2014, 2016, 2021. He's got them all, man. Great job.
04 was bad when Rex got hurt and they went to that fucker, Jonathan Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was Lovey's first year. So you hope that, at least I did, because that's the year you sort of started to see Bernard Berrien emerge. You started to see Tommy Harris emerge. So it looked like, and Lance Briggs was in his second year, and Charles Tillman was in his second year. And obviously Urlacher had a tough 04 and would bounce back remember that's the year he was named most overrated player.
Yeah.
And, but it felt like Grossman will be back. You got Thomas Jones. It just felt like this team is going to get better quick. At least that's the way I viewed it. That's the only reason I didn't put 04 in there, because there was hope. But yeah, watching Jonathan Quinn and Chad Hutchinson play out the string, it was dreadful.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Dreadful.
The Bears, I don't know if anybody remembers this, toward the end of the season there, they signed a guy that I always had an affinity for because of his arm. And Cutler would always get painted with the comparison to this unfavorably, but he never got on the field. But they signed Jeff George at the end of that year.
Oh,
and I was always hoping that they would put Jeff George in the last 4 or 5 games to see what he had, man, because he was begging for an opportunity.
Totally,
because he sort of got blackballed. Just sort of one of those guys what was the guy's name in Oakland that was too heavy? That he's out of the league after being the first overall pick in the draft.
Oh yeah,
everyone just said he's a fat fuck, and that's it. And he spent 4 years working with Jeff Garcia every year, and got into absolutely great shape, and no one would give him the time of day because it was just written that he was a bust. He was the first overall pick for the Raiders.
Wasn't the quarterback, right? Jamarcus.
Yeah, the quarterback. That's what I'm saying. They said he was too fat and he wasn't dedicated. He didn't know the plays, and he spent all these years getting slim with Garcia working out. and couldn't even get a tryout with the team.
I didn't know that he had lost the weight and got in shape. I did not know that.
Yeah, and Jeff Garcia took him under his wing and was trying to teach him to watch the film and and make him a pro. But the jury was already out, and they said, "Oh, he's a bust. He's a fat fuck, and he can't play, and he doesn't have any dedication." And he was done. The same thing with Jeff George. Whenever they put the thing, hey, that's the story. You're done. It's kind of hard to overcome that. You to get an opportunity when everyone says that you don't deserve it.
Wow.
Like Ray Rice.
Rice.
Yeah, you hit your wife, you're done, man. You're done. Right. No one's going to give you another shot now. And maybe that's right. I don't know. I'm just saying. But in the other guys' instances, like Jeff George, people just basically say he was an asshole.
Yeah. I don't know, man. You always want to give people a second shot, When somebody hits their wife, man, that's hard to overlook that.
No, I agree. And somebody hits their wife in the way that what happened to him. I can say that when Vic got out of jail, I wanted Vic to get another opportunity because he served his time. Even I'm an animal lover too. And it's heinous on what he did with the dog fighting and all that shit. But he went to jail. He owes me nothing now. He owes society nothing except to try to atone, and he atoned with his jail time. So when Vic came out, I thought it's fucked up if they don't give him another shot. So I don't know. Ray Rice was kind of already going downhill talent-wise at the time too, as he was in his middle 30s. So I think if he'd have been Ray Rice from like 27, 28, I bet he'd have got another shot.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I want to bring the Tooch in here, but before we do, we got to talk about this sexual escapade that you've been indulging in. I'm not using the proper words, but I'm really looking forward to listening to this. Why am I echoing?
I don't know. I guess you got excited.
That is weird. Am I still echoing? Testing.
No,
okay.
I don't hear anything. I didn't hear you echo anyway.
Okay, good.
Maybe it was in your headset.
It could be because I had a gummy bear.
Well, I think it's important to try to give you the best summary I could, because the context matters.
From last week.
Last week when we were on the show, I was pretty down, and we spent a large percentage of the time talking about it. So I had this sexual encounter with the lady I'd been talking with and seeing, and all this stuff on she was really hands-on, really physical, really aggressive with me, it just in minor things, and again, she was, close to being 50, but she absolutely didn't look it. I can assure you of that. Smart lady. I don't want to say her profession on there or give any indication to have her to say I'm besmirching her, but smart, attractive, older, mature. And like I said, she just was really into me, wanting to talk 4 hours at a clip.
Nice.
When we're in public, she wants my arm around her. She wants me to hold her hand. I'm trying to watch a fucking movie. She's kissing me like we're 19. We've never been in the movies together. It's like the lights are out. Our parents are gone. So let's fuck in the theater, I guess, And she's way hotter than I am. So it's not like I had something to the point is, she's really aggressive. So she wants to go back to the house. We go there. We make out for like an hour before like anything, because I'm still like not sure, that clumsy moment. Like, is it okay to touch the breast? Yeah, I don't know. And eventually I make my move because I'm like, okay, what the fuck are we doing this for if we're not going any farther? And then, but as far as I want to go, she keeps going. So okay, so here we go. We go to the encounter, go down on her. She comes twice. And then we've had all this buildup. I haven't masturbated in a while, and she made me feel really light. Not trying to be like a big baby here, poor you, but all this attention and all this touchy-feely, And I just felt like for one moment I didn't have to be the aggressor. She just was into me. So I think I've had a week to think about that, and all that culminated with me having a fast orgasm, which again. It's embarrassing, but I'm telling you this because the show's bare our souls, right? So I definitely come within probably 3 minutes.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. So I apologize to her and tell her that I can revive. She comforts me and says, I've already come. I've got to work early in the morning. It's okay. Don't be mad, but I got to go soon. And she lays her head on my chest and talks for about 20 minutes or whatever. She goes, when she's leaving, she's driving home. She's got about a 40-minute drive. She's texting me because I happen to be on the pop radio, one of our pop radio stations that day. It was quote unquote voice tracked, which means recorded.
Right.
So she says, I'm listening to you on the radio right now. So I think everything's good. She's listening to me on the radio. She tried to make me feel better when I came like an idiot. And then the next day she ghosts me. So with that in mind, we had all these reasons to say it's her, it's not me, and maybe she had another guy, but it was in the back of my mind.
Okay.
To like, fuck, I don't even want to have sex again. Like, not for a while, because this shit, like the context of that, man, it's like I just threw 5 picks in a game, like fucking just go ahead and put me on the bench for a few weeks, man. And the guy's name, it just popped in my head, was Jamarcus Russell, the heavy guy for the Raiders. But anyway, so on Sunday, watched the game with Holly and all that, and I made no moves. I have no idea what she thinks about me. I was gonna joke and say she was kind of like Hillary Clinton when I was around her, but I don't want to again denigrate her in some way. But yeah, we just watched the game. It was all, it seemed fun. I have no fucking clue what she thinks about me. And it's fine, whatever. She doesn't have to think anything about me. But again, the context of that, because I guess when she left, I wanted to just, whether it's good or bad, I kind of sent her a text and was like, hey, well, what are your thoughts? And that was Sunday, and I still haven't gotten her thoughts. So I like, damn, it must have been bad. I thought it went okay. So now you got 2 things I'm thinking about. And then you put the Bears loss on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
As I was talking to you in Texas, like, man, I'm just down. Like the fucking theater thing, and then I can't work out. It's rain. Like, what am I gonna do, man? So after we were texting last night, literally at like 1:30, as you recall, like 1:30 my time. You're like, okay, amigo, I'm going to bed. So I sat down and was watching that JFK documentary I told you about on Showtime.
Yeah, I started watching it. It's really good.
Yeah, so I figured I already watched it once. I figured, fuck it, I'll get sucked into this thing. You get into that rabbit hole, you kind of lose your sense of reality anyway.
Right.
And next thing you know, I get a text from a woman whom I first met in 2006. I don't want to embarrass her. Plus, we sort of worked. We don't work in the same agency.
Okay.
But it's somebody I kind of have to deal with through my job, and I don't want to embarrass her professionally.
So you can't name her name.
I don't want to say her name. I think she would be cool with it, but I don't know for 100%.
Can we call her? Can we call her Florence? Any name, just give her a name.
Okay, we'll go with Florence then, if that's what you want.
Thank you.
But so the lady whom I met in 06, and over the years had I think we'd gone down at each other, but we'd never had sex. I don't know. I can't really tell you why that is, like 100%, but it just never, whatever. We just both did some good oral stuff, and we were both kind of in a hurry. Whatever. I'd probably been with her intimately 4 or 5 times over the years.
Okay.
Is that porn in the background?
I got a little sound effect going on. Go ahead.
She's single now. She's single now. She sends me a text and she says, hey, I know, because she knows I work midnights.
Right.
She's like, is it too late? I mean, would you want me to come over? And I was like, fuck yeah, I want you to come over. So again, this unexpected text to come and save me from the abyss. And she comes over and, we do you got to talk for like an hour. You can't just like, well, come on and take down your pants. It's not that simple. And nor should it be, nor did I want it to be, because I did want to talk to her. I've talked to her professionally on the radio and stuff like that, but I haven't seen her since like Tressman was our coach.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we're talking, man. And, so good things happen, but here's the best part of the story. So good things happen. The whole time I'm thinking in the back of my head, you cannot come. You cannot come. So
that's the worst thing you can tell yourself.
It's affecting my ability, not my ability, because I'm working. It's there. All the air's in the tire, but it's affecting my ability to enjoy it. Like not the oral stuff, but me trying to fuck. Eventually, she sucks me off there. Here's the part. This part. We wake up. And I'm fucking hard as a brick. When I wake up for some reason this particular day, and so she gets on time anyway. So she's doing her thing on top, and next thing I know, it's probably 10 minutes in. It's not anything great, but it's feeling really good. And I'm like, fuck it. She came last night. I'm going. And so here goes. I blast off, and she tells me this. She says, "Oh my God, we just came at the same time." And I was like, bullshit. I was like, what is that, like a movie? She's like, no, we came at the same time. And I was like, holy fuck, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
So it really cheered me up. So I took her to dinner after that. But yeah, man, it was so cool. I was so down at that exact moment in life. She'd never know how down I was at that second.
Yeah.
No clue. I didn't waste any of the time talking about that shit. I did tell her about the quick orgasm thing later, not then. But yeah, so the fact that I did well, she came and all this stuff, did a little squirting, squirting sensation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she says that's not something she can do all the time, so that gave me a little manly man, stick my chest out kind of thing. But then, like I said, the next morning or afternoon when she says we did it at the same time,
yeah,
that made me feel like I atoned for the fucking shit orgasm the week before, or the 2 weeks before, whatever.
Yeah, you needed
so that made me feel like that got me. Like it's like some people drown their sorrows in alcohol. I drowned mine in pussy, and I came out the other side. No pun intended.
Stephen Me says that he just tuned in. He's sitting in the Dublin airport waiting for a flight, and he says he may have to find a restroom to beat off to this.
It just seems like if you tried that, they would arrest. Like, they don't fuck around at airports now.
No.
It seems like if you masturbated at an airport, they would, especially if it has something to do with America, they would send you to Guantanamo Bay.
The other thing that when
you would be waterboarded for being off at an airport here.
Yes, exactly. The other thing that reminded me when you're sharing the story, and you're trying not to ejaculate, you're saying don't come.
Don't come.
It reminds me of the movie, I think it's Annie Hall with Woody Allen, and
where he's fucking a kid.
He's fucking. I think it was Heather. What was her name? Anyway,
it was Mariel Hemingway, wasn't it?
No. That's Manhattan.
Oh.
That's Manhattan when he's having sex with a 17-year-old, which is disgusting given now what we've learned about the allegations against him. But in the previous movie, he's has a relationship with Diane Keaton, but there's a section of the movie where he's dating around because they've broken up, and so he's having sex with Carol Kane, is the name of the actress.
Oh, I know Carol
Kane. And she says, so why were you moaning slide while we were having sex? He goes, well, it helps me avoid pre-ejaculation, so I think about Willie Mays. I can fuck up a good joke, but even that one made me laugh.
Yeah, I feel bad. Like, I've never been a Woody Allen fan, and combine that with all that HBO documentary, I'm definitely not a fan, but that's funny.
Yeah, he's
fucking funny.
He's made some good movies over the years, but apparently he's a weirdo. Aldo, give him the test. Ask him, did she sleep? Yeah, that's a good question. Bear Truth 9. He wants to know if your female friend, did she go to sleep right after?
Which one?
The one that had the orgasm at the same time.
Oh, yeah. We went to sleep. See, she came over at 3:00 in the morning. She messaged me at 2:30, and I had been trying to work out, watch the JFK thing. So, you know how it is. You work out, you got sweaty balls. You can't just be like, come on over and suck my sweaty ass cock. Yes. So I was like, look, I needed a little bit of time to take a shower. And again, you can't just come out and say, in case we fuck. But,
exactly.
It's not assured that you're gonna fuck. So she got over by 3:30, and we probably got started around 5 or so. And we went to bed because I did some decent oral work. We probably went to sleep about 8, and then I woke up about 3 with a really good hard on. you know, like the kind that would cut diamonds, you know?
Uh-huh.
And so she took advantage of that. And I mean that in the most favorable way. And so evidently we played the music notes together. And that was today after she had fallen asleep. So yes.
Did you record this while you were having sex with her?
No, not at all.
Oh man!
You know what I know Carol Kane from? I knew the name. She was in Carnal Knowledge with Nicholson.
Yes.
She's in Dog Day Afternoon with Pacino.
Yes.
She's credited on her Wikipedia. I'm not making this up. In The Last Detail, the movie with Randy Quaid and Nicholson.
Oh, I don't remember that.
As quote young whore. She played young whore in The Last Detail. And
she's gorgeous.
Another film
man.
that I knew her in from 1988, License to Drive with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
I never saw
and
that
Heather
one.
Graham.
Yeah, she had the beautiful curly, long hair. She was gorgeous. All right, it is time to bring the Tooch in. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I love Tooch, but let me ask you, what's your reaction to my story? Because you weren't here last week about the quick come and all that stuff, and then the redemption. I feel like I nutted on myself figuratively and like missed a layup. Like I was like Charles Smith against the Bulls.
Yeah.
You know, like missing 4 layups to lose a game, but yet I came back. Or maybe I'm Jordan against Cleveland in game 4 when he missed some free throws to cause that game to go to game 5.
Yeah.
And then he hits the shot on, I think it was Craig Elo, right?
Elo, yeah.
Former Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I feel like, again, it's the only way I could ever equate myself to Jordan in some way. But the fact I felt like I went from the GOAT, and I mean that in the old school, meaning that you fucked up.
Yep.
To like, you've come through in the clutch, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But I feel like I went from the zero to hero.
There you go. Well, and from goat to goat, you know, the old goat to new goat, right? Well, let me tell you first of all, because you're like a little brother to me. I'm really proud of you, little brother.
Thank you.
First of all, I don't know this lady, the first one that's ghosted you and stuff, but that's just a terrible thing for somebody to do, especially if it's because of, premature ejaculation. That's just a terrible thing. I think women should know that you don't do that to a guy because you could really destroy their sense of their self-esteem. And don't make jokes about how small my penis, people's penises might be. Just stay away from that, all right? Because that can be really, really hurtful. But secondly, and more importantly, I love the way you got back on the saddle. And people in the chat room were saying, yeah, come on over right away. Sure. they love that quote from you when you told her to come on over right away. And I agree with you. You got back on the saddle. You wanted to prove yourself. And
I was afraid. I'm not going to lie. I was afraid I'd fuck up again. So if you could say I was scared of pussy for that moment in time, I felt so relieved later.
That is outstanding.
So yeah, I was like, man, I was afraid of failure during it. There's no way around it.
Yeah. You know what? I think a lot of guys go through that. You go through an episode where, you have premature ejaculation or you can't get it up. Not that this ever happened to me.
Oh, that's terrible.
Why
couldn't me coming be like a compliment to her? Because she'd already come twice with me eating her. Why couldn't that just be like, damn, baby, your pussy's good? Like,
yeah.
I couldn't help it. It was so fucking good. Why isn't that a compliment?
Yeah.
Like, to me, if someone was like, oh my God, your dick, I just came in 3 minutes, I'd be like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a fucking sin on the other side of it. But anyway, go ahead.
Toa says that Dan Aguirre could teach Matt Nagy a thing or two.
I don't know about that.
No, you know what? And it reminds me, when I was a teenager and I was going out with my first girlfriend, we were having sex all the time. And there were a handful of times where I would I put it in and wham, oh, game over. Sorry, honey, give me 20 minutes. I'll be ready to rock and roll again. But she was great about it. She had this kind of, like you just said, she had this sense of, wow, you really like it that much. She was like 2 or 3 years older than me. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm fucking 15 years old, so I could come in a stiff breeze. So I can relate to what you went through, but I'm proud of you, man. That's the way to do it. Now just keep it up, so to speak.
Yeah, keep it up. That's for sure, man.
Keep it up. Let's ask Johnny Santucci if he's ever had premature ejaculation issues. Johnny, how are you?
Hey, everybody. What's going on in here? I'm glad Dan has recovered. You know, we were worried about him after that last show.
Yeah.
You know, and I know he had in the back of his head, you know, don't come. That's how I feel. You know, that's why I tell myself when I hear news about Matt Nagy being fired.
Well played.
By the way, PJ says, if we're being honest here, and PJ is a former police officer, so thank you for your service. Dan has some good, handy pussy and Brandy. Why waste his time with these other women? Gotta learn to stick with a winner. Learn to read the room. Brandy is a keeper. Wow, that's nice.
Brandy's awesome. I'm not opposed to seeing Brandy in any fashion. We're both busy. You know, like we both. It's not advantageous. It's not conducive to our work schedules, I guess, to see each other a lot. So,
right.
But yeah, Brandy's got phenomenal genitals, if you want me to say it.
What about your genitals, Tooch? How they been behaving lately?
They were tingling during that story.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Vicariously through Dan, so please, Dan, don't premature ejaculate anymore.
Old married men, you know, we got to have Dan bend our ears, you know.
That's right. So, Tooch, before we talk about anything else, do you have anything to add regarding all this Matt Nagy, you know, issue? I know you've been listening intently as you've been manning the background technical stuff. What are your thoughts on how the Bears have handled this? I know you feel like you've been calling for Nagy's ouster since you were like 3 or 4 years old.
I was, you know, I did call, I wanted Nagy gone after year 2. I just, you know, knew that we weren't going anywhere. We would never win a championship.
Right.
I knew that it would end in him eventually being fired. So why not cut the cord now? You know, let him go. We'd be if we had done that, we'd be 2 years ahead right now with some new coach. The offense would be starting to hum. You know, we'd have Justin Fields, you know, in the fold here, maybe learning behind some other veteran quarterback. But I can't say it's surprising, you know, although you and I have been Bears fans for a very long time. And when I heard the news today, you know, of course I got a little excited. I was like, finally, you know, Christmas came early. You know? But the story didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about, when you unpack it, try to read between the lines, because why would they say, you know, after the Lions game, we're going to fire you? You know, but hey, could you coach the game, you know, for us, you know, and
it's hard to believe.
And then I looked at the sources like patch.com and that Mark Conkle, you know, I was like, okay, these really aren't, you know, your typical news source for Bears. And then, you know, an NBC 5 Chicago sports post, you know, was posted on Twitter about the same story, you know, and then you had the Matt Nagy press conference, you know, denying everything. And then Brad Biggs coming out again, like he had a little chat with, and you wonder what was in that chat. Was it, hey, Matt, you know, this wasn't us, Dave McGinnising you. It was, you know, just, you know, misinformation. Or was it like, you know, somebody knew something, it got out, you know, hey, we're going to fire him, he's gone, you know, and somehow it, you know, got down the line as far as being, we're going to fire him after the Lions game, which, you know, again, didn't make any sense. Who does that? Then you think it's so Bears to do something like that, you know, announce something prematurely. You're speaking of premature, whether it's ejaculation or press releases. Here we are in the Bears cycle, right? We're still in that cycle of Matt Nagy, the cycle that you and I are very tired of, Aldo, being older Bears fans. We have to sleep things like this off.
Yep. Exactly.
Old bears in a cave, just sleeping off the drudgery of the McCaskey incompetence.
And that's a great way to put it, Tooch, sleeping off that McCaskey incompetence, because this is now it has clearly become a family situation where, one son fucked it up and now the other son is apparently fucking it up too. And I've just got a report from somebody that I can't name the source, but apparently Matt Nagy, at that meeting, he told management, don't fucking put my family through this. Don't do it. If you're going to fire me now. And that's the unconfirmed report that I'm getting. And so
I agree with Nagy on that. That isn't fair.
Absolutely. I respect them even more now.
That makes more sense.
Yep. And so, if this is true, and he went to management at that scheduled meeting and said, don't put me fucking through this. Don't put my family through this. If you're going to fire me now. He did the right thing. And I don't think any of us should be surprised that, let me see, getting more information here.
Do you think that the Bears would be intimidated by that and say, oh, fuck it, we were going to fire him, and now let's just let him work the rest of the way through the season?
I was thinking about that, but I mean, I can picture the blue bloods, McCaskies, oh my gosh, I'm so offended, don't, oh no, we'll make things right. Just, they don't know how to interact socially. I mean, I'm just guessing. They seem like, upper crust people who have no, concept of lower class people. If you get my meaning, they don't understand how people who aren't filthy rich, are. They don't know what offends the regular Joe. Whether it's just oblivious insensitivity or they do it on purpose. I don't think they're that cunning where they release this thing. Hey, let's put this out there and see how he reacts. I don't think they're that smart. They've got the Arlington Park thing in the works right now. They probably don't want to gum that up. Otherwise Arlington Heights is going to call and say, we really would like to put a winner in here. I mean, although I don't know who the mayor of your town is, but maybe he's having second thoughts.
I bet he is. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I heard on sports radio today is that the pressure is on the McCaskey family to put together a winning team, because that makes it easier for Illinois legislators to approve, helping them out, paying for the infrastructure changes. Going to be massive amounts of infrastructure dollars needed to build roads to the stadium, to build extra lanes on Route 53, et cetera, et cetera. This is huge. And if you are the laughing stock of the NFL, partly because your coach doesn't know where the first down marker is and where his penis is, then you got fucking problems. By the way, PJ says something that I think is excellent. He says, keep in mind that Fangio's defense was the reason for our success in 2018. So true. So fucking true. It's not like Matt Nagy did anything other than a couple of trick plays on national TV, and everybody was like, ooh, oh, that cool. Wow, we've never seen that before. Fucker.
It was fun to see like Akeem Hicks mirroring William Perry,
Oh,
it didn't feel like the team was fun though. That's the thing in 18 when he was coach of the year, at least the team was fun to watch. And even maybe it was fun because we were winning, but it just felt like the whole vibe was positive. And, the club dub stuff seemed organic and not forced.
Yep.
But by 19, it just felt like the whole thing was disingenuous.
You morons!
Culture.
It felt phony after that first season, after the second season. But the first season, it felt pretty, like things were on the upswing. And then, after that, it seems so phony. I've always said, like, Matt Nagy's fake laugh, that just turns me off. It just seems so fake, disingenuous. How you like to come be a bear? Yeah, kid. Then he's, And he same thing with like when he told Jordan Howard, "I promise I'm going to get you going," and then never run the ball. You know, the thing the Bears needed to do the most last Sunday was run the goddamn ball. Here we are 4 years later, and he still doesn't run the ball. You got David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert and Damian Williams. Start throwing these guys at Baltimore. Wear that defense down. That game was very winnable. Very winnable.
And that's how they won against the Raiders, was running the damn ball.
Yeah,
exactly.
He just does not like to run the ball, you know, and we need a coach that is smart enough to know the plays to call to win a game. You know, that's the basic, that's it.
The only reason that the Cleveland Browns have a winning record, if they still have a winning record, I haven't checked lately, but it's because they were relying on their run game because Baker Mayfield is inconsistent. Baker Mayfield is a slightly better Mitchell Trubisky. That's it. And so Kevin Stefanski realized, I don't have a quarterback here that I really can't trust with the passing game. So give me another running back. They signed Kareem Hunt, and they've got this two-headed running back. And so that's what Matt Nagy should have done, as opposed to saying, they didn't bring me here to run the eye and giving up on the run game as soon as there was a negative rush. You know, his ego, as Dan has said a million times and Tucha said another million times, his ego has just gotten in the way. It's time to go. Sorry, brother.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield is the Browns are figuring out he's really not that good. I mean, look at the game against the Lions. They almost lost that game.
Yep.
Like I'll tell you, if I'm gonna bet,
they would have.
Yeah. If I'm gonna bet, if the Lions would have won that game, I think the Bears have a better chance of beating the Lions in Detroit because they'd be all fat and happy, you know. And the Bears, you know, coming into Detroit have a chance to catch them while they're celebrating off their first win of the season. But I mean, I'll tell you, I like the Lions plus 3.5 in this game. I'll tell you, I don't know
if you knew the line. So it's the Lions plus 3.5.
It was. I looked recently. It's plus 3, so there must be some Lions money coming in on some sharps are taking the Lions action. I like the under in this game too. I think under is a great play. I see a lot of field goals. I don't think there's going to be too many touchdowns on this scoring here. I mean, you got Andy Dalton and a patchwork offensive line. You might have Jared Goff. You know, even the Bears defense, even though they're without some of their beef up front, they still were able to hold the Ravens down. But the Ravens aren't really that team either this year. I don't know. They're hanging on that division.
Without their quarterback, we should mention that.
And I'll tell you though, the kid that played on Sunday was just as good. Huntley made a lot of plays. I mean, there was a time when he was like 16 for 17 passing. Throwing, you know, he didn't miss many passes.
Mitch looked good in the preseason too.
He made a lot of plays with his leg escaping. Tyler Huntley is the kid's name. He was high school teammates with Lamar Jackson. They both grew up in Florida, played on the same high school team. I think Lamar Jackson was a wide receiver on that team, and Huntley was the quarterback. And I think it was Lamar Jackson that convinced the Ravens to sign Tyler Huntley, you know, in a backup capacity. And, you know, I mean, they're very similar players, Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley. So I didn't have high hopes for the game. I thought it was very winnable. I thought that the Bears it would come down to the last play. Whoever had the ball last would, you know, get the last score and win the game. But I think Detroit is going to be a tougher game than the Ravens game, the Bears.
I was telling somebody that I always root for the Bears to win, but I don't always bet on the Bears to win. And so while I really, really want them to win.
Were you just putting a bet in on the Lions?
I wanted to see if it was 3.
On your phone?
I wanted to see if it was 3.5. If it's 3.5, I'm laying $50 out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Hey guys, I got to run to the washroom, so I'm going to trust that you two guys will not get very intimate and start talking sex without me. Okay.
Right. I do need to ask Dan a question. I forgot, Dan, last week we were talking Christmas movies, I think, and he mentioned one. I forgot what it was because the night before. Okay, I'm writing that down because my wife was asking me for some Christmas movies for us to watch.
You can't watch that one with the kids. That one's
right.
Really, really dirty. Is what I'm saying.
With my wife.
that with the family.
Right. No, we've got Christmas Story and Polar Express to watch with the kids. But I was last night I watched a sports movie called King Richard on HBO Max. And you don't know if you have seen it yet. Really excellent movie with Will Smith. I'll be surprised if he doesn't get nominated for this, as he was really excellent. I love the character and I hated the character. Yeah, it's about Richard Williams and Serena and Venus Williams.
Yeah,
story.
I heard about it. I didn't see it, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
I loved it. I had very low expectations, but I figured, hey, it's a sports movie. I like sports movies. And Will Smith was really excellent, man. I'll be surprised if he doesn't get nominated, like I said. A very good movie. You'll hate the character and you'll love the character that he plays of Richard Williams. There's a good cast too. There's I forget the gal's name who plays his wife, Ingenue Williams or something. She's excellent. Or Ingenue, we can't remember her last name. She's very good. And then you got John Bernthal and Tony Goldwyn as tennis coaches, and the girls who play the young Williams sisters are really good too. But I mean, I was not bored for a second in the movie. Really enjoyed the story. It was some great moments in the movie too as well. So I would recommend it if you like sports movies and you like good acting. It's called King Richard.
Fundamentally disappointed me, and I'd be interested to hear your opinion. I thought he was dreadful as Muhammad Ali. I mean, I thought he was terrible.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, to be honest. I missed it.
Horrible. He was horrible. Like, he didn't sound like him. He didn't particularly look like him, but he definitely didn't sound like him. I just thought his performance was absolutely dreadful. I really ask Aldo that when he comes back.
I was going to ask you, the Bears and Ravens, what was your, and I know you were upset after the game, but did you you went into the game thinking we had a good chances because Baltimore, is beatable, like all of us.
I heard on Waddle and Sylvie, I was listening when I was cleaning my house Saturday night after midnight. I was listening to Waddle and Sylvie from Friday, and they had an interesting conversation that I was thinking about going into the game. Sylvie was taking his kids, and one of his young kids had never been to Soldier Field yet. So they were really excited and stoked. So he asked Waddle, he basically said, if the Bears lose 38-31 and Justin Fields plays great, I would rather have that than the Bears win 16-9 and Fields look bad. So I disagreed with that, but it must have been his worst nightmare thinking that he played terribly and they lost and he got hurt. But going into it, I wanted the Bears to win. I thought they could win. It actually made me feel a sense of doom when Jackson wasn't playing, because I was thinking, God, we always make the backup quarterback look like a fucking Hall of Famer. So but I still thought we could win, and the game was so sloppy, and even Santos missed a field goal, and it's just like, damn, and it's bizarre plays like that fucking Wildcat and the 2-point conversion, and I don't know, man. It just feels like that game was ours to win, and he gave it away.
At last week's show, I said that the Bears plus 5.5 would be a good bet, and that would have won. But before game time, the line got down to Bears +1 because it was announced that Lamar Jackson was not going to play. So if last week after the last Tuesday after the show, if you put in your bet for Bears plus 5.5, you were happy. But this week, I think I don't know, man. I don't have high expectations for the Bears against the Lions, man. They played the Browns tough. They played the Steelers tough. Hate the Lions or not, they play hard for their coach, and I just don't see the Bears playing as hard for Matt Nagy as the Lions players play for Dan Campbell.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I think that that honeymoon that Campbell still has with those players is still strong with the Bears. I mean, why is it somebody posted something really cool the other day? The Bears always play better in the Bears offense always plays better in the second half, but their defense plays worse in the second half. What is that all about, guys?
Yeah,
it's true.
Defense is taking that siesta, as Dan likes to say.
Yeah, and the defenders always say like, they're tired. They're tired. It doesn't matter. Fields can have like 16 play drives and just be scoring points like in Pittsburgh, and still when they're counted on, they don't show up in the second half. They truly don't. I don't know if it's Sean Desai, if it's Matt Nagy, if it's players. I'm just done with it. But let me ask you before I have to go, Aldo, because you were gone.
You bet.
I said we were talking briefly. We talked about movies because he said he highly recommended the movie where Will Smith plays Richard Williams, the Williams sisters' father.
Right.
And I said that, in my opinion, I didn't see that one, but I thought Will Smith was absolutely terrible as Muhammad Ali. I thought he sounded horrible. He didn't sound like him, didn't particularly look like him, and it was fundamentally miscast, and I hated the movie because of Will Smith. What do you think?
I wish I could tell you I had seen it, but like the Tooch, I have not seen that. And I'm almost embarrassed to say that because I'm a big Ali fan. I'm a big Will Smith fan. But I think what happened to me was that I read a couple of reviews that were similar to your opinion on Will Smith's performance. And because I like Will so much, I didn't want to see him in a performance that he wouldn't meet my expectations. Now, I will say this, that from time to time, I have seen it play on cable, and I've kind of, stopped and watched it for about 30, 60, 90 seconds, whatever. And yeah, his performance, especially a scene that I saw with him, the Ali character, and Bundini Brown, who was played by Jamie Foxx. Right? Am I right? Jamie Foxx, right? Played Bundini Brown?
I think so. I haven't watched it since like 2005.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx had the bald spot like Brown did, and so anyway, I thought that the acting from these two heavyweights, pun intended, of motion pictures was really surprisingly kind of weird. A lot of times when you're playing historical characters, it's really, really tough for the actors, and that was the impression that I got a couple of times while watching little clips. But I'm going to give it a chance someday. And hopefully I'll enjoy it more than you.
Yeah, it's just too bad. Like, if it had been made earlier, and maybe I'm just saying this because of the hurricane, if they'd have made that in the early 90s, like Denzel could have pulled that off.
Denzel Washington, when he was in shape,
yeah, he could have pulled that off.
Oh my gosh.
He would have sounded like him too. He would have sounded like him if he would have worked on his voice and sounded like him.
What was he played Hurricane Carter in the movie?
Yeah, the Hurricane.
Yeah.
And I think that was like 99. So
right. Excellent performance.
Yeah, they always said historically it wasn't accurate, and I couldn't verify or contradict that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I thought that it was.
The movie made me cry, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they captured the essence of this guy who was thrown into jail for something he didn't commit and lost a good deal of his life. So
you like sports movies, though, right, Aldo?
I love them. Fucking love them.
Yeah, you'll like King Richard, then, man. I'll tell you, it's a great sports movie.
I have to go, but let me make my last pitch to you on air about this because I just told you briefly last night.
Okay.
Again, it's on Turner Classic this month, but I've always liked this movie. I had it on VHS. I taped it on HBO when I was a kid on VCR. I had it on DVD when it first came on DVD in like 2000. And for some reason, critics hated this film, but I thought it was solid. It's called Stealing Home, and Mark Harmon plays the older version of the main character. See, essentially, it's non-linear, and the main character is like 37. He's kind of washed up, just living with some girl he doesn't care about, and he had all this talent, and he let it wither away. You don't really exactly know why, but he's sort of stuck in a rut,
Mm-hmm.
And he gets news that the first girl that he ever loved committed suicide, which is played by Jodie Foster.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as we find out later, it's the first girl he fucked. She was his babysitter. And he, as he got older and started going into puberty, naturally he was always around her. So, he liked her. And of course she had no interest in him yet. She's like 17 when he's like 12. But by the time he's 17 or 18, like, when I think it's after in the movie his dad dies, he quits baseball. So he has all this potential. He's already signed a contract with the Phillies to play minor league baseball, to go to start in the rookie league. But his dad dies, and like he quits, but that's kind of when Jodie Foster feels bad for him and fucks him. He loses his virginity. But the movie's nonlinear. It's playing a lot of flashbacks into the early 60s, because the movie's from 88, 89. So it's supposed to be in the middle 60s when all his youth was, basically, or the late 60s. So you got a great soundtrack, great acting, great flashbacks. Like when his friend is played by Jonathan Silverman, who was in like Weekend at Bernie's opposite Andrew McCarthy. And he's just so desperate to lose his virginity. And so you have this coming of age kind of tale. They're both seeing women for the first time. It leads to all this stuff that he goes through, and his dad dying. And it's so sad and authentic. And but he has to relive all this stuff in thought, because he rides a bus back home and he's like, what do I do with Katie's ashes? Why did she choose me for this? So you live all of it through his memories, through flashback. And it's really, really, it's a good film. It's somewhat sports related. It is, but it's deep and dramatic. And I thought it was great. I said, you got Harold Ramis from Caddyshack and Ghostbusters that plays the older version of Jonathan Silverman later in the film, opposite Mark Harmon. And you got Jodie Foster. It's a solid film. It truly is. I think it's great.
I will definitely check it out. It's funny because
I haven't seen that either. I got to see that.
Yeah, I'm running the trailer as he's describing the movie, and so many of the things that he's saying are syncing up with what the scenes that we're seeing in the trailer. So definitely looks like one to find, because you say it's on Turner Classic Movies this month?
Yeah, it's on TCM right now.
I love TCM.
Like I said, I haven't personally seen it on TV since HBO showed in the late 80s and early 90s. So I was pretty excited to see it. Like I said, I've got it on DVD. But everyone kind of shit on it. Back in the day when TV Guide was a big deal for everybody.
Right.
It would show it on HBO, and it would have like the 1.5 stars. Or I'm like, well, this movie's so good. It's drama, it's baseball, it's life, it's the pursuit of every boy in your teenage. Will you ever get any pussy? And you got a good soundtrack. You got to deal with death, all these things, coming of age, man. That's what it's a really good coming of age film for two teenage boys, and it's solid, man. I don't know why people hated it.
It's when you say coming of I immediately start getting wild thoughts. Get out of here, go to work, go save some lives, amigo.
Yeah, man, I thought this was a good show. I hope
thought
everybody
so
else
too.
agrees.
I had a lot of fun. Please me, and I'm happy.
Well, last thing I got to ask, Chooch, if you had to bet your money right now on Friday, is Nagy the coach on Friday? Do the Bears fire him on Friday? You have to put your money up right now. What do you think?
I would have said no before that closed door meeting with the McCaskies. Now I would lean towards yes, that Friday he will be gone, because this is like thinking it into action now, because of the it wasn't a true story, but the story went out there, and now it's circumstances are starting to make it come true. There's no other choice. I actually see the Bears losing this game, so I would think that the Bears, this might be the first time they fire a coach, and like Aldo said, they get a jump start on interviewing the next coach. It makes sense.
I'll do a last question. I got to go. I think you should put up a poll and see what everyone thinks with the bar room. It'd be interesting. Do you think Nagy's gone after the Lions game? But
Aldo and I put up polls during your story already. We got no polls left during your sex story.
The general feel is from the rest of whether Greg or Mike North. What do you think? What is the general consensus from the rest of the bar room?
Yeah, I am going. Well, Dan, are you and I still planning on doing a show after the
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. Dan and I, and anybody else is welcome to join us after the game, the Turkey game. I know people will be eating and so forth, but to kind of continue our tradition of always doing a post-game or after-game show, Dan and I are going to do so, and maybe we'll have some surprise guests. So, Dan, you and I will talk about that. We'll not only talk about the game, but we'll talk about what the latest is in the Matt Nagy situation. We'll talk about what other people in the bar room are feeling. I'll reach out to Mike North and Greg Gabriel and John Buffone and blah, blah, blah. Maybe we'll get a little video as well. And I promise to have some video of Heidi, who I'm having lunch with tomorrow. So maybe we'll have some fun with her and have her participate in some way, somehow. So yeah, you get out of here, man. Go save some lives. Make sure that you don't tell the firemen to go to the wrong address.
I won't, but my last thing is just keep in mind for Thursday, I won't have access to my professional equipment, so I'll just have to use my phone and go through StreamYard, I guess.
Yeah, that'll be fine. We've done it before with so many other people. People want your personality, not those that great voice behind that professional microphone.
All right. Well, if we can pull it off, I hope that it is successful.
Yep.
So
I'm sure we will, brother.
Bye, Danny.
Right. See you later, man. You all have a good Thanksgiving too.
We will. Likewise, brother.
All right, too.
Johnny Santucci. Okay. I want to
we couldn't ask for better news breaking before a Tuesday show, Aldo.
Oh my goodness. I am telling you, man, I've been running ragged trying to stay on top of it. At one point, I'm saying to myself, you know what? I'm editing together all this stuff from Sunday and Monday where there's like tons of material to find about what's going on with all the latest news with the Chicago Bears. So it was kind of a strange prep time for me. Hey, I want to play something for you. Back in the days of 100 Proof, we used to do a lot of parody songs. I'm sure the folks over at Tape Never Lies are still doing them. It's a specialty of Draft Dr. Phil. Nobody does them better that I know of anyway. I like to do them, but I'm awful at it. But I was smoking some marijuana the other day, and I said, you know what? I feel like doing a fucking parody song.
Oh, boy.
Tell me if you can hear this. Pace and Nagy go together like Mo and Larry. This I tell you, brother. The fuckers probably have the same mother. Pace and Nagy. Both the futures looking awfully shaky. Ask my buddy Dan. He'll tell you both should be can. Try to fantasize that both are done this season. Try and get it done before the end of the season.
Oh, it's great.
I was really drunk, man, that day.
That was awesome.
Wait, I got another one here. Hold on a second. Come and listen to my story about a team named the Bears. They once had greats like Peyton and Sayers. And then after Ditka and the 85 Bears, they started to suck and now no one cares.
That's where we are now.
That's about it. Well, here we all are in 2021. The Bears play the Lions and need to win one. I'm so fed up that if they don't win, I will probably commit the ultimate sin. I'm not talking suicide. Fuck that. I'm talking about letting my wife watch the games with me. Not caring, reading a book during the games. Taking a shit when it's not a commercial. Oh, yeah. That's what we've come to. Oh, man. What do you think, John?
That was great.
You'll ever get to a point where you just say, fuck this, man. I'm not even going to watch the game.
I had a hard time watching this last game. Not only because the broadcast it was over the airwaves in Iowa here, and it was normally We don't always get the Bears game because usually they play the Vikings games. They're so close to Minneapolis,
sure,
or the Chiefs games. So being so close to Kansas City. But occasionally we get the Bears game. It was on, but the signal was terrible. So I would watch it on my phone.
Oh no,
it was just better. Watching it online through NFL Sunday Ticket. But I had a hard time watching this one, just because to me it's just like it's so over, and I'm just like, it's the same old stuff.
See, the thing for me though, John, is that I still find some of the storylines interesting. So Fields gets injured and Andy Dalton comes in. And so I'm like fascinated by it. Well, let's see what Andy can do with the offense. So what does he do? The very first pass, it's a beautiful pass to tight end Jimmy Graham. And Jimmy Graham is probably thinking to himself, holy shit, the motherfucker looked at me. And then the very next play, he throws the wide receiver screen and Darnell Mooney runs 60-some yards, 70 yards for a touchdown. And so that storyline, I'm thinking to myself, okay, now everybody's going to say that Dalton should be the quarterback over Fields and so forth. And then as the game progresses, Dalton starts to have his problems. He starts to look like mediocre. And the other touchdown that he scored late in the game was a bullshit defensive call by Wink Martindale, whatever the fuck his name is, from the Ravens, the defensive coordinator, as Boomer Esiason said in those clips that he played earlier. He's just overly aggressive, and so you're trying to protect against a touchdown, and you're having coverage like that. So, there's all these storylines, and so I always get sucked into all that stuff. But in terms of I'm not sure I'm ever going to buy some Bears T-shirts or hats again. Fuck that. I'll wear more barroom stuff because it's like, why should I spend my money on this organization that is so fucking dysfunctional?
Yeah, I don't need to buy any Bears stuff. In fact, the Bears gear I bought recently is stuff I found in the secondhand stores. If I see a Bears, shirt, jersey, or hat, I grab it in the resale shop, consignment, or
that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. I found this George Halas bobblehead. It was like $20. I said, gotta fucking get that. So look at how upset he is.
I love it. Yeah, he's rolling. He's spinning in his grave, man.
It's like,
I don't know where he's buried, but people that live across from the cemetery ain't getting no sleep.
somebody that's funny. Somebody once said, I think it was online in social media, when Muggs Halas died, that was the end of the franchise. Now, it's not quite true. They went on to win a Super Bowl after that. But it did seem from the reports that I've read was that Muggs Halas was the guy most prepared to take over the organization from a family standpoint. And but unfortunately he died early, and so he never got that opportunity. But it does seem like Ed McCaskey's sons, Virginia's sons, boy, oh boy, they're just not doing a good job. And George is joining that lineage of McCaskey fuck-ups if he doesn't clear up this thing and try to get a winner as quickly as possible.
And, that might be what, George was doing in today's meeting after the morning practice, or before before Nagy canceled the afternoon meetings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you played that clip and you saw, bookish Mike McCaskey, dancing around the reporter's questions, just like, this guy, he can't run anything, and then, you kind of saw like maybe George McCaskey's got a little more meatball in him than Michael McCaskey probably has no meatball in him. Let's just put it out there. He's got
for sure
nothing. Right? There's no meatball fan out there in Michael. Yale doesn't allow that stuff. But George looks like maybe he got a little fan meatball fan in him. You heard him screaming. We had that scream drop. Go Bears! A really loud one. You're like. We had our hopes up, but recently it's been, leaking, these whispers leaking and stories leaking and talking behind the back. It's just been more of the same, or it appears to be more of the same. I guess we'll find out Friday. But the whole thing about I found it so ridiculous today. Like, hey, Matt, can I get a word? We're gonna let you go Friday. But
clear out your office, but you got to coach one more game.
One more game. Can you do that for us?
That just, and that does happen in some corporations. Like I was part of a organization where they told everybody, not everybody, but the people that were letting go, we're letting you go in August. We know that it's February, and so we wanted to give you some time to start looking for work and so forth. And from one aspect, from the corporate standpoint, in a middle class people like us, we're thinking, oh, well, at least I got a job here for the next 8-9 months. And so it allows me some time to get my shit together. But that doesn't really help people like Matt Nagy. Yeah, we want you to stick around for another few days and stuff. That's just not the way it's done. Not the way it's
so ridiculous.
By the way, Michael McCaskey, you said that he was did you use the word bookish?
Yeah.
Bookish. So he did write a book. Did you know that? He wrote a book called The Executive Challenge, Managing Change and Ambiguity. Maybe they should fucking read that book now. That's what needs to happen here, is properly manage it.
I would never read that book.
No. I've lived it, so I don't need to fucking read that book.
But do you think, let me ask you a question. Do you think, like, after today's whatever got botched up, if it was a botch, botched job by Bears management team, do you think they'll learn any lessons from this? Like, hey, I guess we don't know what we're doing. Let's hire somebody that does.
Well, that is a really, really, really good point, because this thought flashed into my mind for about 3 seconds, and so it's not fully baked yet. But maybe the changes need to be that you need a new chairman. We've been saying a new president of operations replaced Ted Phillips. Why not replace George McCaskey with somebody outside the family? Let's go out and, I don't know who, but, bring in a whole new chairman, somebody who has had success at the NFL level, who has the executive experience to work with city governments, to manage an organization with a president and GM and coaches and so forth. Maybe the changes need to start at the very top. We know they're not going to sell the team until they're ready to sell the team, but there's no stopping them from Virginia for Virginia to, say, kids, you fucked this up long enough. Let's bring in my good friend.
We need fucking Elon Musk.
Yes, exactly. Elon Musk. Please.
Get the rocket ship to take off. Rocket ship Bears.
Wouldn't that be cool? But yeah, maybe Toa says that, what happened to those rumors of Jeff Bezos buying the team. Jeff Bezos allegedly was at Hallis Hall, and so who knows what was going on in that meeting. Could be that he wants to help finance the stadium. Maybe he wants to buy the team. Maybe he really wasn't there. I don't know, but hopefully we'll get some more information on that.
Yeah, in my opinion, the guy owns too much already, but hey, maybe it'd be a good thing. Bezos Memorial Stadium complex in Arlington Park.
I'm with you on him owning too much already. Gary says, what about Greg Gabriel for team president? And I asked Greg Gabriel that on our last show, and he says he admitted, I'm totally underqualified, but if they offered me the job, fucking A, I take it. Those were his words. and PJ, we also talked about Champ Kelly. I asked Greg Gabriel, what do you know about Champ Kelly? And he said, I've heard a lot of good things about him. I don't really know him. I've met him a couple of times, but Champ Kelly is a guy who will be a general manager for either the Chicago Bears or probably some other NFL team. He's a highly sought after guy, and I bet you he'll be doing a lot of interviewing coming up.
So while we're juggling Bears management positions around here, people have for years been, well, Ted Phillips is the problem. But the fish rots from the head.
Yes.
You know, the McCaskey kids, George and Michael. Michael is no longer with us, right? He passed away, I think.
He passed, correct.
He passed away.
But there's
So you've
two
got-
other McCaskey sons on the board as
Okay.
vice presidents.
Right. And I wouldn't say that they're, you know, football people, like, you know, breaking down tape and knowing, you know, dissecting and diagnosing what's wrong with the team.
Right.
But, and of course, Ted Phillips also in that same vein.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been under the impression that, you know, that Ted Phillips doesn't really make any football decisions, you know.
Correct.
But if moving him to just like say chief financial officer and is in charge of getting this Arlington Park stadium deal done, and not, you know, having anything to do with the football side. This is okay, Ted, you're no longer, you know, vice president or of whatever. You're going to be chief financial officer. You know, you did the Soldier Field reboot. You're just going to take care of this, you know, and then maybe retire, you know, shortly after that, or take a small, you know, advisory position,
right,
you know, with the same salary perhaps, or he just, you know, comes into the office like old times, right, and they hire somebody who's, you know, a football person, you know, knows football, knows the game. People are saying, let's move Ryan Pace into that position. I'm kind of like, no,
yeah,
because he's not an older guy. He's a young guy. I don't think he has quite the experience. When I think of a person who's good at diagnosing the game and knowing all facets of a game and can, you know, diagnose what's wrong, I don't think of Ryan Pace. I'll tell you that.
I totally agree, but it does seem like they've been grooming him to replace Ted Phillips. So, for instance, you know, handle the management of the new Hallis Hall renovation, $100 million project. And so if indeed he was the major day-to-day project manager of that is a great education for now working with city governments for a new stadium and so forth. Whether he's capable of doing that, I don't know. Apparently the Hallis Hall renovation, everybody talks highly about it. So apparently he did a good job there, but can he work with city municipalities and all the other business aspects that Ted Phillips takes care of? Ted Phillips has like a master's degree in finance, and that's what his specialty is making money. And so they will only offer Ryan Pace that job if he can prove to them or convince them that don't worry about it. The money's going to continue to come in just like it was with Ted, and it's going to come in even more because of everything that's going on with revenue generating opportunities for us. So that is, you know, definitely a possibility, although, you know, I don't know for sure. But getting back to what we were talking about, like you said, you know, the fish rots from the head up. You know, I think that this could be Virginia. God bless her. You know, I saw her. She was so happy when the Bears scored a touchdown and went ahead. Yeah. And maybe she needs to just set her foot down and say, okay, Michael tried it. George tried it. Now I'm ready. Let's bring in somebody else from the outside to lead all the operations. Would be cool if that happened, but I don't think it will. She probably, at her age, she doesn't want to upset the family and have them go through the embarrassment of having another son fired from the job. So I'm just speculating here, but it's not a pretty situation.
Right. And of course, there's always those rumors of people, shareholders of the Bears wanting to sell, you know, or force a sale of the team. You know, we may see that. You know, you may see that. You may see enough of the shareholders come forward, you know, and force a sale. You know, maybe even George McCaskey agrees with it.
Yep.
At this point.
There have been stories that some of the family members want to sell, but that they were waiting for Virginia to pass because they didn't want, you know, she's so proud of the fact that her father's deal and, you know, he basically started the NFL. And so, you know, it would hurt her a lot to see the team.
Might be the only reason they're still holding on to it.
I got a feeling that's a big part of it because when they sell this thing, we're talking $3 to $4, maybe $5 billion.
Yeah.
Who can afford that? Oh, Jeff Bezos.
Not the city of Chicago, Deborah.
What a fucking stupid thing that was.
Well, I mean, it's like, would they like to buy it? Sure. I don't. The city of Chicago doesn't exactly strike me as an organization that's in the black.
No, they fucking mishandled the pay meter thing. Keep them far away from buying any of the sports teams that I love.
Talk about people that don't know anything about football.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Right. Lori Lightfoot in charge of the Bears, for fuck's sake.
You know what's interesting is you and I are going to wake up in the morning. I got a 9 a.m. show here at the bar room to direct Bar Down Talking Hockey. You've got to get up early to go to work.
Yeah.
But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at social media and see if Matt Nagy submitted his resignation first thing Wednesday morning.
I might look right after the show.
I might look right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right, man. I got to pull the plug on this. It's been a long, long day for me. You are the man, brother. You came in here and handled everything behind the scenes, allowed me to kind of get my little breather and concentrate on what Mr. Dan Dwyer was saying.
Added some color to the Bears situation.
Yeah.
What are you doing trying to read between the lines and stuff, but I have been, man, I had a hell day yesterday. I worked from like 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night.
Oh,
I had Entertainment Weekly releasing and Midwest Living both releasing yesterday, as long as another magazine too, that Anti-Inflammation, something that you and I are interested in, Aldo, as we get older. But I had 3 magazines releasing yesterday at work. The January issue of Entertainment Weekly have the
Who's on the cover?
Matrix.
Oh, nice.
Keanu and Carrie Ann, very lovely shots of very drawn out, kind of like a faint green, pale green series of shots for the cover story. And I think you'll get a kick out of some of the articles in there too. And
did you work on the present Entertainment Weekly with Will Smith and the Williams sisters on the cover?
I do them all. Yep. Yeah. The Williams sisters. That was last month this month, right? November.
Yeah, it's out right now.
November.
Yeah. Last week. Yeah, it's an excellent issue. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, great movie. I think you'll enjoy it as far as, if you love sports movies. And he was actually, you're gonna love the character and hate the character at the same time, which I think is really hard for an actor to do.
Yes. That's a great point.
So I was like, sometimes like, this guy's great. Then I'm like, this guy's such a fucking dick. And I'd be like, what the heck? He's such a pain in the ass. But he's such a great father too. It's like, you're just like, yeah, it was very inspirational. I love the kids. I love the story. It was excellent, man. King Richard on HBO Max.
I saw Serena interviewed about it, and she talked about how emotional it was to see her.
I got a little teary myself, man.
Yeah.
So it's a happy, feel good movie,
I'm anxious to take a look at it, and I might give Will Smith a shot in that Ali movie. We'll put that into queue as well. I have to watch it.
I got handed a baby bottle by one of the toddlers, so I think that's some kind of message. Although,
get to work, brother.
No bourbon.
That doesn't apply to me, does it?
No, that's for the toddler.
Thanks for everything you do for the bar room, brother.
Have
a happy Thanksgiving, and
you too. Happy holidays, everybody.
Please tell the wife and the kids that Uncle Aldo said happy Thanksgiving.
I will. Do you want to say hi to Uncle Aldo real quick?
Yeah, bring her on.
My 3-year-old Camilla. Hi, Camilla. Say hi, wave.
Hi.
Uncle Aldo.
How are you?
You are way past your bedtime. That's Camilla. She's 3.
Oh man, and the other one's fast asleep, right?
Yeah. She had a rough day at kindergarten today, or a long day at kindergarten. Not rough, but she loves school. She's like, she's all school. She just loves it. Girls going there, learning, doing everything. Just can't wait to go to school.
Yeah, well, you gotta love that when your kids love school. That's half the battle there.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, brother. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll be in touch.
You too. Happy holidays.
Yeah. By the way, you got one more betting tip for us before we go away?
Like I said, I love the under in the Bears Lions game. Under. Okay. I'm not sure what the line is right now. I also would take the Lions +3.
I already did that.
3. Yeah. 3.5. My top bet last week was the Colts +7 versus the Titans. Just blew them out, right?
Yes, send Jonathan Taylor a thank you present.
Right.
I have 5 touchdowns.
Yep.
All right, go feed that little one, brother.
All right, take care, Aldo.
You got it. All right, I'm gonna just say to everybody that tomorrow's Wednesday. It's Bar Down Hockey at 9 a.m. The Parisi brothers. Actually, Joey Parisi will not be there, but our new addition to the show, it will be there with Vinny, and so they will talk NHL hockey. And then tomorrow night, we've got a new episode of Pass the Mic that will premiere tomorrow night. And then other than that, it'll be a little bit quiet until our after game show on Thursday. Dan Aguirre and myself and maybe some other barroom people can separate themselves from the dinner table and talk Bears football immediately after that game. And if there is a change in the Matt Nagy situation, if he does resign, if he is fired, whatever it is, follow us here in the Bar Room. We'll assemble some of the characters from the Bar Room Network to comment on that. And we, of course, would love to interact with you live on our chat room. So other than that, it will probably be a fairly quiet week here at the Bar Room, but we'll keep you posted. And the best way to know what's going on is to hit that like button here on our YouTube channel and hit the bell. You'll get notices on your devices that we're on, or just follow us at Barroom Network on the Twitter machine. I think that's it.
You morons!
Oh, stop it, Ed. I will play the closing theme and we'll be out of here. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network and you give us a rating on iTunes. Until next week, my name is Nomse. Bear down.